I believe we're on. Thank you. We are gathered on the lands of the Blackfoot people of the Canadian Plains and pay respect to the Blackfoot people past, present, and future while recognizing and respecting their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationship to the land. Lethbridge is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. Oki, and welcome. So we will begin with our agenda. So we have consent agenda first. So is there anything that needs to be pulled, Craig?
Oh, I want to talk about, I'd like to add things to the agenda with the indulgence of the
Okay,
board.
we're just on the consent agenda.
Okay,
So I would like to pull the facilities committee report,
which one?
facilities committee report.
Okay.
And we'll put it under, probably under board chair report 10.8. Okay. So moving on from the consent agenda, we'll move to approval of the agenda. And Craig.
With the indulgence of the board, I'd like to add 8.6, public school board's allocation, and also 10.8, which is my oral report on the public school board general meeting, which just happened this past weekend.
10.9 for that. Okay. And with the 8.6, is there any documentation?
Was that Christine Lee? Christine Lee has a document. No, Christine Lee has a thing.
Okay. Any other additions? So looking for approval of the agenda as amended. Craig? And those in favor? And those opposed? So that's carried. Next is approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of September 26. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, could I have an approval of the minutes? Andrea, and those in favor? And that's carried. And next is business arising from the minutes, and there is none. So we will move right into our associate superintendent reports, business and operations. Christine.
All right, thank you very much. So October is the month of everything. It seems like it's the month for, we have the month for fire prevention. And in the spirit of fire prevention, we found out that we have a new way we have to conduct fire drills in our schools. Normally, we used to just go to the pull station, which is kind of fun when you can pull the pull on the station. But now we have to run them in what we call drill mode off the panels. And then when we do that, we found out that our buildings were acting a little different than they normally would under a regular fire drill. So it caused a little bit of some interesting conversations. So so we're in the work process of getting those things ironed out with one of our contractors so that we make sure that when we do a fire drill, it acts like a fire as if there was a real fire. So we're in the process of fixing that. This is the month of requests. So we've put in requests for modular classrooms for the 2024-25 modular classroom program with Alberta Ed. No surprise, we've requested modular classrooms for Cobanks. We've asked for 4. We asked for 4 last year and didn't get any, so we're going to try again. And then also we're asking for Chinook High School for some more 2 modular classrooms to add on to the 3 that we just added this year, just to keep giving them a little more space over at Chinook. And then we've also had to submit for our capital maintenance and rural grant. And Victoria Park is the grant that we've been supporting the upgrade with that grant. And so we reapply to keep that going, as well as we've also added Senator Buchanan and Westminster Elementary Schools for elevators, because they currently do not have elevators. They were on our list last year. They approved the list, but then they give you, they give you so much money, and the money that we get was really only able to support Victoria Park. But you never know; they might sometimes they inject more cash than we expect, so we always add lots to our list. Exciting coming up November 8th and November 22nd. We have our community engagement opportunity for West Lethbridge Elementary School boundary changes. And so the school boundary alignment committee has been working on what that evening looks like, the presentation and whatnot, so that this is an opportunity for our parents and staff of those West Lethbridge Elementary schools to hear about why we need to change boundaries. One, of course, is we need to align boundaries for our new K to 5 elementary school that's opening in Gary Station. And yes, Craig.
Just in one part, calendar events, it says 5:30 and yours says 6:30. So I'm just verifying it's at 6:30, right?
It's at 6:30. 5:30 is in your calendars because you need to come help set up.
Okay. I might be a little late for the 22nd,
Yeah.
but other than that,
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so anyways, we've been working on what this evening will look like. Also we and we've just sent this information out to the community as well, that we will have a bus that will run parents from Nickel Sharon and Mike Mountain Horse if anybody needs transportation, because we certainly didn't want transportation to be a barrier. And so to date we have 105 people signed up between the 2 days. The 8th is the most popular to date. So the registration closes October 31st, so that we can then get our everything ordered and ready for that evening. So still time to register, and so hopefully we get more of our families coming to engage with us. If for some reason someone cannot come on those 2 evenings, because we realize our families are quite busy, or they have other reasons they can't attend, there will be on November 23rd, we will post the video that we're showing at both presentations on our website, along with the survey. Everything's the same video, same questions that will be discussed at the in-person. So if you're online, you're only missing out on that conversation with your fellow table mates and maybe a few snacks. Other than that, you still have the full ability to engage with us even online. So. Yes.
To clarify, people online don't need to have pre-registered.
No.
That last minute people can get online.
Yeah. The online's not live to our session, but on the 23rd, they can go online, watch the video, do the survey, that sort of thing. Yeah.
And the survey will stay open. Do we have time frame for that?
Yeah, till November 30th.
Till November 30th.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, finance, it's audit season, and our auditors, in fact, are in my office right now. They've taken over my office for the next couple days, and they're conducting the audit of our year-end books. An interesting fact, because it's also insurance renewal season, that we have an estimated property value of $580 million that we insure in the division. That's kind of an exciting number if you like numbers. It's about a 7% increase over last year due to inflationary costs. That's that. Again, talking about months, October 10th was World Mental Health Day. I just wanted to point that out. And October is Cyber Awareness Month. Of course, important to all of us who have devices and are online. It's just being aware that there are always new attempts of the threat actors to try and get you to give out your personal information or do something you normally wouldn't do. So it's always about trying to be aware of that and keep your personal data as well as our district data safe. Our technology department's been working a lot with some staff in a variety of areas. One was working with a session with SAPDC to offer teacher workshops on OBS, and OBS is open broadcast software. So this is a way that they can do streaming and that sort of thing, kind of like what Garrett does for us. Exactly. And then they held yesterday a feedback session with teacher representatives from all our schools with the whole tech team. They had an opportunity to get together and just have a conversation about technology in our schools, what some of the things that we've been doing, and also some ways that we can support our schools. And of course, I wanted to congratulate David Harmon, who is he's our seniors network security analyst, and he just received his Pen Test Plus certification, which means he can actually ethically hack into our systems to test our systems. That's a really just a narrow vision of what he can do, but it's an important certification to have. Transportation, it's pretty obvious if you look outside, it's cold weather season. So we just always remind our students and parents just to make sure everyone's bundled up and that delays do happen. And just so that they're aware of that, because when it gets, today's not a bad day if you had to stand out a little bit in the cold, but when we get into the midwinter and it gets into the minus 20s, it can be pretty cold if there's a bit of a delay. And yeah, that's really just about all I really wanted to cover.
Craig,
I'm not sure where this is the right place, but last spring, the government announced $6 million for Collegiate Institute, Southern Alberta Collegiate Institute. Could we have an update, or who gives the update on that? Where it's at and
that'd be in the deficit
Yeah.
report.
is it in your report, Mike?
It isn't, but I can address it in the next one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the other one is I appreciate the email from Jesse Sedlowski offering the trustees a tour on the 14th. Unfortunately, I'm not in town that day, but he and I are working out something to be able, he's going to take me around. So but I appreciated the feedback that he wanted to take the trustees on a tour of our technology.
Jenny,
I just, yeah, under technology, I wondered if you'd be able to give us an idea of the evergreening of the switches in schools. What does that look like? How big of an endeavor is that? What kind of a cost is associated with that? Trying to understand, I know our tech is huge, and trying to understand how that kind of breaks down a little bit.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that is an area that's beyond my expertise, Jenny. I can certainly
That's totally
I can
fine.
certainly get that information for you if you'd like.
It's not overly important.
Yeah,
It's
it's not that wouldn't account to the same cost that we're dealing when we do all the computers in the division. But the switches help. If
I never even knew switches were a part of things.
Yeah, they are. They help manage the network and the.
I believe it. The other thing I was just gonna request is, I always appreciate the update on transportation, and wondered at a future board meeting if we can, if you have any updates as to what strategies we're putting in place to move toward being able to meet those new provincial requirements with busing the new, um, everybody who is over 1 kilometer rather than 2. I know that that's something we get a lot of questions about, is what are we doing to get ready for that? And so any information as that becomes available, if that can be included in.
Yeah, I could certainly probably provide that maybe in December or January.
Excellent. Thank you.
any other questions? Christina?
This one might be under board report. The joint city, is that one on yours?
It's tomorrow.
Just read it on the list of meetings attended.
Yeah. Will be tomorrow. We can let you know after. Yep. Sounds good. And the one that I was going to highlight was the Jesse having for all the trustees. So if everybody's able to make it, that would be great. The tech team is putting together that wonderful tech tour for us. So I think that that's important for us to learn and understand what's going on in our division. So,
and that's a great time to ask about switches.
There we go.
Because he'd be able to answer that question.
We can ask those tough questions then. Christina.
And then I always think about your team, Christine, on the first day of major snow. So thank you for everyone who are making the walkways safely. We stumbled our way up and the roads were being cleared as we spoke. So we appreciate the team and making sure that all the schools are safe for all the ways that students and staff get to school. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Thanks. So next is instructional services. I'll turn it over to Mike.
Yeah, thank you. So couple, just to hit a couple highlights on the instructional services report here. Morag, Kaysen and Sydney, they're off to the CAS pre-conference to do a presentation. CAS specifically asked them to do it because they heard about the unique program that we're running here. So I got an email and they were fairly, I talked to the person, they were fairly persistent. And so yeah, they're gonna head up there and do that, which is kind of exciting. And then, as you know, November 15th, there our digital wellness parent engagement evening. So hopefully that'll be well attended. In terms of dates and events, we do have professional learning happening this week, Thursday and Friday. So there won't be any classes for students. If you look on the right-hand side there, we've got a bunch of our dual credit stuff going with the U of L and Lethbridge College. So intro to the trades right now, they're culinary trades, construction trades, electric trades, transportation trades. So great opportunities for students to do things that can lead to specific careers in the future. And Craig, just to answer your question about the collegiate, technically it starts next year, but Lethbridge School Division is involved with. We have a collegiate model happening right now. And just so you know, the collegiate model is basically where we're partnering up with Lethbridge College. And so students can come once or twice a week and they actually take classes at the college rather than their regular classes. And I believe, don't quote me on this, but I think it maybe even goes down into middle school. So yeah, it has started. We're one of the few divisions that has actually started and running the partnership already.
Just a follow-up on that. Are there, did that $6 million also include costs to renovate the old barn?
It's a good question. I don't know 100% for sure. So yeah, I wouldn't be able to say one way or another.
But then we would be sharing the costs with all of the other divisions.
Yeah. And I should have mentioned with the collegiate model, it's not just Lethbridge School Division. There's multiple divisions involved in it. And so they all send students to the collegiate. Yeah.
Andrea?
Councils are excited about the tech night and they wondered, could they have questions from the floor or do all the questions need to be in ahead of time?
You know what? I'm not 100% sure if they're going to give space for questions from the floor, but I'll see if I can get that for you. Okay.
Sounds good. So in regards to on November 22nd is also the Trades for Unite, the intro. Kids can go and try out a trade. We have been certainly encouraged as trustees to attend, but we also have another engagement that evening. But if you are a trustee choosing to check out one of the businesses that have set up with this, what I've been asked is if you are going to check out the location of where they are, is to please not register because then you'll be taking a spot of a student. But definitely encourages at your school councils that students go and register. What I always say is please encourage us even if you're at an elementary school, because often our parents have kids in other schools and they might not go to the school council meeting of the high school. So make sure you share it no matter what school council meeting that you're at. And then my question in regards to last month with the EAP, and there was waiting list for our EAP, and I'm just wondering if you have any more information about how that waiting list is going.
I'm sorry, I don't, but I'll get that information. I'll make sure I put it down and make sure I get it to trustees, and I can just actually email it out, and then we can come back in public next time. So
Okay.
yeah, I apologize. I don't.
That's
have that.
okay. Thank you. And I know that we'll be having further conversations at our committee of the whole on EAP, and so I look forward to those conversations and have more questions then. So, and I'm fine if that's when you wait and have it. Then I just wanted to make sure that I have it that I asked. It's definitely of importance. So, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you for Morag's team. I know they've certainly been busy working and they've had lots on their plate. So, thank you. Next is Robbie with Human Resources.
Okay.
You'll see we've been busy as well. I tried to provide as much detailed information as I could. I know you had quite a few questions last month. I hope that there's been some answers provided you in the report. You will notice our numbers. K-12 enrollment up 341 students. Craig, you specifically asked for how many combined classes we have, so there's totals there for you to review. The cohort growth simply shows that from one grade to the next, we are increasing. So we are holding on to, as well as increasing our enrollment numbers as those cohorts grow from one grade to the next, to the next level. So that's the significance of this chart here. And then you'll see the breakdown with and without early learning of our numbers by school and grade level. There's charts there showing that for you, keeping in mind that 2 of our schools no longer have early learning programs, as you're well aware.
Craig?
Just a couple of questions. One is the grade 4, 5 combined classes. I've taught in one of those. That's not too bad, but I'm a little concerned that we have 21 grade 2 to 3 because that's sort of the basis right at for their start. Is there looking at additional staffing, or are we looking at leaving them like that? And how, and maybe you could just explain how when we do a split class, how that actually works for the student and the teacher for the board.
Well, it is specifically up to the principal to decide, of course, but I know that they really try to avoid any kind of combination with grade 1 for obvious reasons.
Right.
2 to 3 would be split if there's those number anomalies. So I'll use a specific example at an elementary school where we did provide extra support, and it was to support a heavy number of grade 2. And they had to do the split because the teacher was a 0.5 in grade 3, and so they split up some of those classes there. So there's a variety of reasons. Craig, Mike might want to speak further to this because he has some historical context.
Yeah, and when you look at, you can see 2, 3, and 4, 5 are both at 20, right? So we got a lot of 2, 3 splits, 4, 5s. In many schools, that's actually purposeful, that they want to loop the kids together and they want them to have the same teacher for 2 years. And so, so they will keep them together and do combined classes. So sort of half the class is new and half the class they're in their second year with the teacher, and then it just rotates through. So some of that is actually an educational decision. And that just depends on the philosophy of the school and what makes the most sense for that context.
Okay. Thank you. And I know that that is a principal's decision, but yes, thank you for the update. The other question I had is that in our enrollment, again, it would be nice that we had, and maybe Christine Lee can give us that later, the percentage of how full the school is. But there's a couple of things. Senator Joyce Fairburn, grade 9, it says we have 6, but that's it's a 6 to 8 school. So what is the anomaly with Senator Fairburn?
They have an online school program they provide,
Oh,
and it
okay.
goes to grade 9.
Okay,
So only those would only be online students considered in that
that
number.
little group.
Mhm.
Okay. And is it just the ages of going through? I noticed that Wilson had a big decrease, and so did Lakeview and Mike Mountain Horse. Is that just the number games of people leaving the school and going to grade 6 and those coming in?
Sure, if you want to.
So yes, so a couple things on those. First of all, last year, if you look at the grade 9 cohort, for example, that's our biggest cohort in the division.
Right.
And so when that cohort moved out of grade 8 to grade 9, then that did impact the middle schools in their enrollment. And obviously Wilson was one of those that was really impacted by that. I believe a pretty large grade 8 class. And then Mike Mountain Horse was up substantially last year in terms of their enrollment. So yeah, it's probably a little bit of a normalization. And then Lakeview is probably more reflective of the community that they serve, the neighborhood that they serve, and maybe a few less families around there.
Okay, but overall, we're up in attendance across the board. Okay, thank you.
Jenny?
Thank you for these reports. Couple of questions from them. I did notice that LCI, when we're looking at our student enrollment chart, they have an increase since last year of 202 students. So quite a large increase to when your student body goes from 1,200 to 1,400. I know that is a school that can hold a lot of people. Do we have proper capacity in gyms and in bathrooms? Is that big of an influx a struggle for that school? Is that something they can handle? What does that look like for that school? That's quite a large increase.
So a couple reasons for their increase. There was the grade 8 cohort. We've had some growth in South Lethbridge. Also, as we have got a phased in approach of some of those kids coming from West Lethbridge when we did the boundary alignment. So we would be seeing I think it's a grade 11's now being added to LCI as designated for the designated boundaries. So this is, I think, the last year that rolling change of moving kids over. That's part of their growth. As part of the facility, they have a capacity of 2191. Now, is that the right capacity for that school? Because it's built a little bit like Hogwarts. It's got lots of different staircases and hallways and stuff like that. So if we just looked at pure capacity, then they would say, yes, there's lots of room there. But technically, when you think of the programs they offer, because they have to have room for a variety of different options and programs and things offered, I would say they're start to getting squished for space. That's why they're on the list for modernization. Because if we were to modernize them, that we would probably do something there. Also, if you recall, we received planning money from Alberta Education for our West Side study. LCI is going to be included as part of that West Side study because, of course, we're taking kids from West Lethbridge over to LCI to deal with the growing West Side, and so they'll be part of that discussion of what do we do to fix West Lethbridge, but also now because LCI is impacted, how do we handle LCI? So there's lots of work to do there, and it takes time.
Thank you. I did have a couple other questions, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just along the same lines as Craig, I assumed that when we're looking at the enrollment with our split grades classrooms, I assumed that this is more of an intentional approach with philosophy, and I just wondered if you're able to share with us which schools those are mostly concentrated within, just out of curiosity.
Could you provide a little bit more?
Are our split classes centralized within certain schools? Is there certain schools that are really embracing that approach? Or is this kind of spread throughout the division is what I'm wondering.
I think you're looking at the 2 3s and the 4
split
5s,
classes, the
ones
2
that
3s and the 4
there's
5s.
21 of each.
So are they centralized within certain schools, or is this spread across the division?
No, it's in particular schools. I just couldn't say off the top of my head exactly which ones and give you accurate information. Like I believe Park Meadows, I want to say possibly Senator Buchanan as well. But yes, your question's bang on because we do have some schools don't do this at all, and there are others that do it. We can certainly get you that information.
Last question. Just looking on the first page when we were looking at the onboarding numbers. I'm hoping you might be able to clarify some of these numbers for me. It says that we onboarded 19 teachers and substitute teachers. I think this is since August 1st. But then below we have the substitute teachers, we added 23, so that's more than the 19. Oh, I'm not sure where the 19 fits. 19, 23, and 12. But what I'm wondering is, it says that we have, as of October, we have 138 available to us, but in March we had 153. And so is that a normal reduction fluctuation of accessible substitute teachers? Is this an area of concern?
I will say, it's typically we see a bit more activity this time of year, but we have been using a fair number of substitute teachers to take on some leave requests. So they're stepping into temporary contracts. But no, typically, from what I've been told, we see a little bit more activity than we have this last couple of months as far as substitute teachers and the numbers. Did you want to speak more to that?
Are we feeling any sort of a pinch with that number, or is it still feel adequate?
There are specific days definitely where we have pushed the ceiling on going without subs in certain buildings. So we really have to be cognizant of what we're offering on certain days as far as PL. And we also know that this is a peak time for the cold and flu season. And so there are illnesses that play a factor into that. So we've had 2 or 3 days where we have been stretched and have not had absences filled.
Andrea?
I wanted to ask the same kind of question that Jenny asked about LCI in relation to Patterson with its growth and that the French immersion program is there. Are there any plans for expansion at Patterson, like portables or?
Christine? Yeah.
The same sort of question that Jenny asked about LCI for Patterson with it grew by 55 students. It's such a big school at 855. And with the French immersion program there, are there any plans for portables for there or an expansion?
So we'd have to, right now, to get new portables, you have to be over 100% capacity to get them. So that's why they're not on our actual list. Yeah. When we're done building the new Gary Station School, and we can do some work in some of our schools that have a lot of modulars, we may be able to move some modulars to other schools because then we can say there's a need in our division. That's a possibility as well. There is some other things that we can do over there that take some capital dollars, and so I know Daniel Heaton's been looking at it. So it might hit. It's a good chance we may be requesting not just modulars but something different for Patterson, but we're still assessing.
Thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, Jenny, I know you had some questions about kind of historical data in terms of our enrollment, so I can just give you, it's all, these reports are in the October board reports going back a number of years, but I just can give you a really quick summary as well if you'd like in terms of total enrollment.
Sure. I'm wondering also, and I didn't ask this before, but could I add to my request for a future date? Looking at these enrollments in conjunction with capacity of each school. And just especially as we're moving into looking at boundary alignment, is just understanding the trends of our enrollments in correlation with our capacity at each location. Does that make sense? I should have asked that. I didn't think of it until after. But thank you.
Craig?
Just one quick question. We have 180 students in preschool and pre-K, so EEP, and we've decreased the number of schools offering that. Is that an increase or a decrease overall in the division?
An increase meaning what?
Well,
Because
do we have,
had our programs.
are we
passed.
having more students in pre-K and preschool, or did we drop because we eliminated the program in some of the schools? So, I mean, I'm just looking at the number. Did we stabilize? Because I did hear, someone did say that there's a wait list.
So in our previous board packages, you'll see that the numbers are there in regards to how many seats are for what
Yeah.
category
Oh,
of
yeah, sure, yeah.
students. So those are there, but did you want to speak to if that's an increase or decrease? Okay.
Yeah, I can speak to it if I did my math correct. In 2020, we had about 350 kids in early learning. 2021, it looks like about 300, 2022, about 240, and then I think 2023, about 180.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's been the trend. Obviously, it's not been increasing as the number of programs decrease. Obviously, the number of students enrolled decreases.
Thanks.
Yeah. And Jenny, just to give you a sense of the historical enrollment. So K to 12, we were about 11,058 students in 2020. 2021, we were 11,374. 2023, we were 11,708. And then 2023, we're 12,049. With early learning, it went 2020, 11,403, 2021, 11,676, 2022, 11,948, and 2023, 12,229. Now, just so the board knows, if you were to go back into Christine Lee's report, for example, she would show a different enrollment number than what we have in here. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is funding, students funded is different than actual students. Robbie is collecting actual students. Christine is looking at funded students. So for example, in Christine's FTE, kindergarten students are counted as half. But we don't, in the HR world, you don't count half humans because they're one full human. So they're counted as one in the list. And then there's some other things about sometimes we get some kids that are funded by two divisions. They get pulled out. They're not funded for some reason, but we've got them in our numbers. So just so you know, you can, all those numbers are basically just a snapshot in time anyways. They change throughout the year. So just to make you aware of that. Craig, also you had a question about English as an additional language students. So and how many were coming in. And so from mid-August to the end of September last year, we had 61 ELA intakes, so kids that were new to us that were coded with EAL codes. And then we had 39 kids that came to us new that ended up not having to be coded because they already had a code, that sort of thing. So that was about 100 kids. This year, in that same time frame, we had 134 new EAL intakes, and then we had about 13 that came to us that weren't additional English as a language. So we had about 100 last year, 147. If you look at the actual intakes, though, it was 134 English as an additional language intakes and 61 last year. So yeah, you're welcome.
One quick question. EPI schools at the bottom of the high schools. I'm not sure. What does that mean?
Educational programs and institutions. So it's run under the Victoria Park umbrella, but it's Stafford Ridge, used to be the camp
Oh, okay.
program
Yeah,
in the
those are
hospital,
all
that
the
sort of
schools
thing.
that are
Yeah.
connected with,
Yeah.
with Victoria Park. Thank you.
See no further comments or questions. Thank you, Robbie, for that report, and have some questions still, I think, but good. Thank you. Next, moving on, we have our superintendent's report, board priority report.
Thank you. So I'll just start off with a few things, hit some highlights, and if you got questions, do our best to answer them. As I mentioned earlier, Morag and the digital wellness team are doing a presentation for CAS at the start of November, so very excited about that. Morag met with CAS membership and Alberta Education to share feedback on PUF funding, so that's been in the structure, and that's been obviously an area of emphasis for the board. So yeah, something that's definitely on the radar for sure. We had our first division school council meeting at the start of October and had a great turnout. The room was pretty full, which was great. Moving down, you'll see under collaboration with other school authorities, the last bullet point there, Aaron Herkett met with Dr. Robin Bright from the U of L and Adam Browning from Palliser, and together we're doing a study on early literacy. So great example of a partnership between those institutions. Skipping to numeracy, it talks about Adam creating feedback forms to collect information on numeracy pilot. Like I told you before, one of the challenges we have is there's a bunch of new assessments from the government that happen in the fall. And so this really is an attempt to streamline that. There's always some hiccups in it, but if we can streamline some of the assessment, we think that'll really help our teachers out. As Craig mentioned, under experiential learning, Jesse has invited the board on November 14th to come and see all the innovation in the division. It started with a request to see the esports, and Jesse kind of took it a little bit further and said, I think we can do a little bit more than that. So I'd love to have you and love to show you around and all the great things they're doing. As I mentioned before, we do have the digital wellness night on the 15th. Keep plugging that. Early learning, as we mentioned, Rochelle is going to be coming to the committee of the whole next meeting, and she'll be providing you with a whole bunch of information about early learning. You'll have an opportunity to ask any questions that you have, and we'll spend some time on that because we know that's something that we really want to have a conversation, particularly before January when we have to start making decisions about the programming. Family bingo night, there's one tonight for the Indigenous education, but I believe it's been canceled now because of the weather and rescheduled till Thursday, I believe. So. And then under the diversity, talks in there a couple times about the work that Jim Kerr does. And he's really a key part of what we do, trying to help students who aren't engaged in school get engaged. And really when we talk about personalization of learning, that's something that that Jim certainly does a great job on. And then skipping down under leading learning and capacity building, divisional professional learning, Rebecca and Rochelle were involved in SIVA training, 22 participants. That's really important training for us, especially to work with kids who may be, you know, have a whole variety of complexities that we need to support them with. And then the Parabytes session, catch-up session, that's been really well attended and really well regarded. So we're really happy about that work. That's it for the highlights for me, unless there's questions.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, you can move on to donations and support.
Awesome. So very fortunate. We don't need to read through them all because they're in there and you've seen them, but we're always grateful for the donations that we get. Certainly just tremendous support from the community. So very thankful for that. And as you can see, our schools are grateful for that and put the donations to good use.
No questions or comments. So thank you for all those that have donated and made that support. Appreciate that for our division. Next is acknowledgements of excellence.
Great. And again, I'll just hit a couple highlights. And so Akola Agnes Davidson, obviously elementary French immersion school. So they spend a lot of time promoting the concept of French and beyond just the language, culture and those sorts of things. Big supporters across the province as well for French immersion programming. Couple things that stood out there. Numeracy Amazing Race, where the classes were given a math challenge every day. It's a great example of a way that we can make numeracy a little more exciting, a little more fun, a little more accessible for the kids. And then their Taste of the Nations evening, where they had students and families coming into the building, sampling food, that sort of thing. And just a great way to, first of all, get parents into the school and a great way to connect. So. And then we'll go to Victoria Park, and I believe you're all well aware of the work that Victoria Park does. Very unique school, really focused on meeting the needs of individual students. And you can see in the bullet points all those great options that they offer. And certainly back when I went to school, there wasn't anywhere near this number of options. So yeah, another example of a school that does a really good job of personalizing learning for their students and having the driver experience program where they can provide a car so kids can practice and learn and eventually get a driver's license is just really a great idea.
Craig?
I would just like to echo that. Uh, They have a lot of volunteers that help the kids with the driving. And I think that should be recognized that they have volunteers that are coming in. That car is booked continually and it's been very successful. And so really it goes back to the community, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Davis and Lethbridge Subaru, and the volunteers that make that opportunity for those kids. It's wonderful. And I keep getting feedback from people at Victoria Park and how great that is. And I think we should just continually support that anyway.
Excellent, thank you. Any, good. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, move on to calendar of events. So the calendar of events are there, and as was noted by Craig, sometimes the times are different than what they are as public. So this is the time you as a trustee are expected to be at any of these events. So it's not always necessarily the start time. So when you're looking at these for our boundary review engagement opportunities, it's 5:30 for us to be there to set up for our board event, and public is coming at 6:30. So are there any things that we missed on that list? Nope. Seeing none, we will move on. Next is presentation of governance certificates, and I'll turn it over to Mike.
Maybe I'll just give a little bit of background. That's probably easier. Yeah, so just wanted to say, so Allison and Christine, they participated in a cohort where it was all related to the trustee governance program. And it's just a way for them to expand their professional knowledge. They had a whole bunch of courses that they needed to take, 56 hours worth, as a matter of fact, which is really impressive when you consider all the things a trustee needs to do. And I just wanted to say thank you to both of you for participating in this. It's obviously valuable learning, but it's a great example of your commitment to education and learning. And that's obviously really important in an educational organization. So thank you. And Garrett's just running to grab a camera here, and then we'll take a quick picture and congratulate you officially.
Thank you very much, and I would encourage any trustee that is interested as ASBA continues to offer that program and that opportunity, and that is open to trustees across the province. And I'm just looking at time. I don't think our trips, Winston Churchill and LCI are not here yet. No? Okay. So we will move on to voluntary retirement. And Robbie, is that you? Okay.
You'll notice in the memorandum, it's almost identical to the one Mike presented last year, and that's because the only thing that has changed are the dates that they're being offered this year, should you pass a motion to approve them. I will give you some stats. We had a total of 15 retirements in 22-23. 9 of those 15 teacher retirements chose the voluntary retirement option. We had 9 support staff retire, and we did not have any choose the voluntary retirement option.
Are there any comments or questions? Jenny?
I have a question, and I don't understand a lot of background behind it, and so maybe it applies, maybe it doesn't. But I know that there's some incentive for people to retire before they turn 55, right? From the Alberta government. Is that inaccurate? I'm wondering if our date for January 31st, does that interfere? I don't even know how to put this question into words because I don't understand it well enough.
Yeah, it's really not a division thing. So under the ATRF, the Alberta Teachers Retirement Fund, you do have the option of if you want to pull out of the pension before you're 55, you can pull out of the pension. And so, but it has to be before you're 55 on your birthday. So so it really depends on the individual employee if that's a choice that they make, that they want to resign and retire and pull their pension out, then they have that option. But they don't have to do that. So no, that's an ATRF policy. It's really nothing to do with the division. We don't manage the pensions. So yeah, the two wouldn't come into conflict.
Thank you.
Other questions? We're looking for somebody to make a motion. There's 2 potential motions there. Craig?
I move that the board extend the voluntary retirement opportunity to employees who qualify to collect a pension and are members of the Alberta Teachers Retirement Fund or local authority pension plan, QP 290, QP 2843, and non-union employees. Employees intending to access this opportunity will be required to notify the division in writing per the process outlined by the division and submit a letter of retirement effective January 31st, 2024. These employees will be offered a temporary contract effective February 1st, 2024 to June 27th, 2024, or the end date as per the appropriate employee calendar.
Any further discussion or comments? And those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And next is trustee expense advance. Christine. Yes.
I would like to table this to later in the discussion, once we've talked about public school boards, because I think it's germane to the conversation. And we were going to do some of that in camera. So I would would like to just delay it until we've had a chance to do the other part.
Sorry, what other?
Discussing something in camera, which I brought up at the start of the meeting. Because it is similar to it'll affect some of the decision made here that it might change. So I would prefer if we could discuss everything before we discuss this sheet, which I think some of it should be discussed in camera.
Okay, so you're 8.6, is that what you're referring to?
Yes. Well, and then also I was going to bring up something that has potential impact later on in the division. And so I would prefer to discuss that in camera before we discuss this and this.
So the agenda was approved as amended with that item prior to.
But we didn't finish the in-camera portion.
Okay.
And so then it does affect this because we didn't finish the in-camera. That's my main concern, is that there was some item in there that would
Okay, so when I asked if it was in relation to your 8.6, the PSBAA allocation, it's actually in regards to something in camera is what you're referring to.
That a little bit in camera and then publicly, but the one part in camera is very important to discuss. We could move in camera for 5 minutes because that's all it would take.
That's your choice to make a motion to move into
I
camera.
move to go in camera.
Okay, and those in favor? Okay, Tyler?
We just had a little discussion about moving in camera. So Craig, are you trying to move, is it 8.6, 8.6 up to now to have a conversation in regard to this?
Heard of it. There's just a small part that needs to be discussed in camera. Then the rest of it could be discussed openly. But it's about a 5-minute item that I would like to talk to the board about in camera.
Okay, but either way, you need to move 8.6 up till now to discuss
Well, yeah, like,
with this,
yeah, I would prefer if we discuss both of them at the same time.
okay?
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor to move into camera. Any further discussion on moving into camera? Christine?
I do feel I see the need for to speak to both at the same time. I am frustrated. I got my work in on time. We have deadlines and we have expectations. I did this. This is something that you knew you were going to bringing forward, Craig, and it did not make it to the deadline of the agenda. So that is my frustration right now. So I did that's why I didn't support the agenda. I'm exhausted of the last minute entries into our agenda. I have put the time in. I would like to speak to it.
Any other comments into moving into camera? It's not moving this item into camera, it's moving into camera. Those in favor of moving into camera? And those opposed? And that's carried. So at this point, we will move into camera. We do need our public to just step outside. over to Mike, and we'll pull up. You need to hang on. You need to be on mic.
Okay. Hi, my name is Selena Matthew. I teach Science 9 physics and now astronomy at LCI. And we also have a really strong STEM program. And here to talk to you guys about our trip is May Harris, one of my students. You can sit and tell them.
Okay. All right. So I was in Miss Matthews' Physics 30 class and Physics 20 both last year, but Physics 30 in second semester. And I knew that a lot of my friends were kind of interested in going into engineering careers, and quite a few into aerospace, aeronautics aspects. And over reading week last year, Miss Matthew went to the Kennedy Space Center for her PD trip. And when she got back, she was telling us all about it. A lot of us were interested in the astronomy program that is now new to LCI. And as she was telling us about her trip to the Kennedy Space Center, a lot of us were interested, and we kind of threw out the idea of doing a school trip, since there are a lot of school trips that go on at LCI, but none at all related to STEM or science. Most of them are band programs, dance, a lot of the arts, but we thought it'd be really interesting to have one related to science, and it'd create a lot of opportunities for anyone interested. So me personally, I want to go into aerospace engineering, and I am taking the astronomy option next semester. So I just feel that this trip is very relevant to what I want to do. Yeah, so if you guys have any questions, I'll have to answer them for you.
Excellent. So in your board packages, you'll see the information in regards to cost and all the details. So what do we have for questions for them? Andrea.
Tell me more about your fundraising, especially your Christmas market.
Okay, well, actually, we kind of switched that up a little bit because I've been brainstorming with people the last couple of weeks. So I like to bake. The last 2 weekends I've just been baking, and I ended up putting together, because I do sugar cookies during the pandemic. I like to learn, so I took some sugar cookie decorating classes and some like cake decorating classes. So I put together 50 boxes on Sunday. And 25 of them are just sugar cookies with royal icing in bags so that you could self-decorate like you've seen them around town. And then 25 of them are just cookies that I made, like snickerdoodles and pumpkin pie cookies and caramel apple things. Anyways, there's 4 left of those and only 9 left of the things, and I haven't even sold them yet. We're officially starting to sell on Monday after we get approval. But I had so many people be like, that one's for me. Quest Support Services also asked if I would come in and they would donate to our program. I'm going to run a sugar cookie decorating kind of class for their Christmas party. Me and my friend like to do those just for fun, as Robbie has taken one. Yeah, so it's kind of a passion project of mine. So I've just started telling people, and they're throwing at money at the program for cookies. So we're hoping to do it for Halloween themed cookies, Christmas, and then Valentine's Day. Easter will already kind of be going, but that might be some last minute spending money for them. So it's not really a market anymore. It's kind of strategically placed things. Also, I have been I've applied to our alumni, but I've also talked to a few community members. We are going to put together a raffle that will be kind of like a self-care, support local business, and also grad raffle, where we have some donations to like a local 2 hours for a limo, supper gift cards, spa gift card, so that hopefully we're not just continuously selling to the same people, but maybe some students want to buy a $10 ticket and get a 2 hour limo ride at grad and their hair done and their nails or something. So whatever the students sell for that, they'll be able to keep. The raffle, the baking. Bottle drive, we're going to spend a few weekends just collecting bottles, and I have some really passionate kids, and I just want to make sure that money's not that factor. So we are doing a few things like as a whole club, but then I'm providing them opportunities to sell individually as well.
Thanks so much for your creative ideas and for your personal investment in it with the cookie baking. That's awesome.
There questions or comments?
Yes.
Christina and then Jenny.
I just want to say thank you both for coming. And I just want to echo, I agree. It's really exciting to see a STEM based trip come forward when there's obviously lots in like social sciences and things that, and the arts. So I'm really excited to hear about this one. Thanks.
I'm also going for PD this year at the Johnson Space Center. So if you ever have questions about either NASA by the end of this year, I will know a lot.
That's awesome. Jenny?
What a fun trip and what a fun presentation. So thank you. I love the branching out into the STEM as well. I echo that as well. I noticed that you have a day at Universal Studios and that you have educational STEM program. Tell me more. Universal Studios has a
I know,
STEM
I
program?
didn't know. Actually, we have a guy, his name is Ben. He is with EA Educating Adventures, and he has reached out. We were actually initially looking at kayaking, but that, because of scheduling, got kiboshed, so we're no longer doing that. But he said that at STEM, they often will bring students in to talk to the engineers about like velocities, acceleration, forces. So he is creating a website for us right now for the kids to know more about that. But it's still kind of up in the air. But we get to meet with a team of scientists while we are at Universal, which is new to me, and I'm very excited about that.
Very
I'll
cool.
let you know about the STEM program once I'm back.
Any other comments? Thank you for organizing this trip. It's lovely to see it connected so well to our educational programming. So thank you. So with that, I'm looking if there's some of that. Christine?
I move that Lethbridge Collegiate Institute trip to Florida in May 2024 be approved by the board on the condition that all division policies and procedures are strictly followed, and with the understanding that future travel advisories and/or vaccination requirements may affect the trip's ability to proceed.
Excellent. Any further questions or comments? And those in favor? And that's carried. Enjoy the trip. I can't wait to hear how exciting it is.
I'll take lots of pictures. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thank you. Are you guys ready? No? Are you waiting for someone else?
No, Jamie's upstairs.
Okay. Where's your suit? Yeah. This is what we get?
All the eye candy.
Okay.
Hi.
So we will go ahead. Pardon, Tyler? You're good. Go ahead, Kevin. Great to have you here.
Hi, good to be here. It's been a while since I've actually had to ask for permission to travel. So a little bit of background to this proposal. In 2019, in the fall of 2019, we had a group from Australia connect with us. They brought a boys team and a girls team. We hosted them. We scheduled games for them. They actually competed in Chinook's tournament, and they had a great time, and they had a connection to a family in our school. And the intention in 2019 was to return there in 2021, but of course those things were delayed. That same group of students is returning this November, so late November. They're coming back and they're connecting with our school, and they're going to hang out and make connections with our basketball program. And so, of course, one of the things that we've been kicking tires is to finally reciprocate that experience and go and visit them in Australia. So a lot of this was contingent on some things, and I had looked online, and the prices to fly to Australia are usually not very great, but I've been watching them, and then all of a sudden they dropped by 50%. So I thought if we act quickly, then we can lock some prices in before they start to creep back up. So as of 10 days ago, a flight to Australia was about $1,500. It's typically $2,500. And for us and our ability to travel there is we'll have no accommodation expenses, and most of the food and entertainment, the activities that we do are going to be covered by our hosts. So just like similar times in the past when I've traveled with groups to Germany in 2016 and 2018, and we've done the homestay scenario, it significantly reduced costs, and then therefore it makes it more accessible. And even in a short kind of timeline to be able to pull this off by Easter of 2024, we believe that we can get enough students to make this happen. So
Christine.
Well, I'm excited for this opportunity for your students.
Mhm.
In your package, you say the itinerary is
Mhm.
incredible. Are you able to give some detail on what that itinerary is?
So the details are still forthcoming. We're working with the school, Northside Christian Academy there, and Michael O'Neill, and they'll come over. So they're working on getting those specific details so we know exact times and places in the situation. So it's a rough itinerary right now. We hope to have it, confirmed certainly before we go, but certainly by Christmas time, we're hoping. They get to go on summer holidays, of course, coming up here. So they'll have some time to dedicate to helping us arrange those trips.
Christina.
Yeah, again, always thank you for sharing, and travel opportunities for students are always great and welcome. For the most of the presentations we see are typically like with a tour, and this one is more freeform and like based on the partnership. Can you explain a little bit more about the educational opportunities for students? I know that it'll mostly be over our students' break, so they won't miss much school.
Mhm.
um, but just for the
Yeah, I
education
mean,
piece.
other than, of course, anytime you travel, you're going to experience culture and a different way of living. The other part that's going to certainly connect to students and their lived experiences is seeing what it's like for kids on the other side of the world to go to school. So a lot of what we're going to do is give them an experience of spending some time in those schools, and again, seeing how students live. And then, other than that, we'd of course interact with culture and history and just all those things that come part and parcel of being in another country. So I always think, just from the experience we've had in 2016 and 2018 when we've gone to Germany, it's a very rich experience to live with a family rather than live in a hotel. And so that's usually where the great connections are made with students and the people they stay with. And often, at least till this point in 2023, the experiences we've had in Germany is those kids are still friends with each other and connect with each other. So we're looking forward to those lasting relationships.
Christine.
Can I just ask, yes, I think that's going to be a great experience for the kids. What is the vetting process for the homestays, and are the students in a home individually, or are they paired with somebody from the school?
So when we've traveled in the past, and forgive me because I haven't looked up the new protocol, there is homestay protocol from the division. So we have the host, so Michael O'Neill will be our contact. He would vet and then have them fill out the proper paperwork. And then we work as hard as humanly possible to make sure there's two people, just because there's that comfort. And obviously, it makes it a lot easier if something happens to go wrong, which of course we hope wouldn't. And in some cases, even when we've stayed in Germany, there's been kids who've been in groups of three. So it just kind of depends on what happens on the other end, but we do avoid as much as possible to have a kid by themselves with a family. Yeah.
Tyler.
I just had a question in regard to capacity, and you say there's approximately 15 kids. Just first of all, kind of where that number comes from, and second of all, are you able to accommodate more? So I just simply ask because you've got pricing on this that seems to be really good. Like if anyone ever
Mhm.
had a chance to
Mhm.
go, this is the time.
Mhm.
So that's just why I'm asking.
So when we've traveled internationally with students on the basketball team, because we went to Cuba in 2018 and we went to California in 2014, we usually tried to limit it to like one team's worth of humans. But certainly, like with the group that we're partnering with, Australia, if when presented, all of a sudden we have 20 kids or 18 kids, like we can accommodate as much as we need to. Like there are no upper limits to that way. But knowing that, like the difficult part that this is contingent on is we won't really know who those humans are until the third week of November when we do tryouts. We'll obviously, if approved, host a meeting to get people excited and thinking about this, and knowing that if they make the team, that's an opportunity for them. But knowing that, grade 9, 10, nines, JVs, and seniors, we might only have 36 to draw from. So probably not going to get more than 15, but we might. It just always depends on kids' interest level and ability.
Jenny.
Sorry, I think you just answered this, but this is being offered. I know you say grade 9 to 12 students to just the basketball team kids. that right?
Yeah, the intention is for the kids who are gonna be on the team is then to host the kids from Australia in November, right? So they'll have a connection there and then reciprocate with that in April so that they have those connections. So it's not just open to the general student population. It's the same thing we did when we traveled to Cuba and when we traveled to California. It's limited to the players who have made the team.
Christina.
Is that the boys team or the girls team or both?
It's only the boys team, unfortunately. The invitation was extended.
Craig.
Oh, this is exciting. We did a trip to Australia that we had to organize in 5 days back in 2021 because we got canceled to go to England. It was girls rugby. But it is important, I think, for kids, even in sports, to play and learn about different cultures. And our kids, the kids that went on the rugby tour from Winston, LCI, Fort McLeod, Vulcan, still talk about it. And so I'm really excited about this and that you've got a better rate than we did. We had to end up taking 3 different flights to get down there, and you've got it fairly organized. So thank you.
Jenny.
So is the intention that when you host the Australian kids, will they be hosted at the homes of the basketball players from our?
No, there's actually a family that's got a connection to Australia, and so they have organized where they're going to stay. They're actually going to stay in a community church. So they'll be billeted out, but we've been in conversation about the experiences that they're going to have and hosting them at our school and the games that they're going to play. So that's been our connection to them. So, but no, they won't be billeted out.
Any other questions? Seeing none, looking for a motion. Craig.
I move that the Winston Churchill High School trip to Australia in March 2024 be approved by the board on the condition that all division policies and procedures are strictly followed, and with the understanding that future travel advisories and/or vaccination requirements may affect the trip's ability to proceed.
Any further discussion? Those in favor?
No,
And that is approved. So enjoy your trip. Can't wait to hear about it. And if there's a game when the kids are here from Australia, invite the board. We'd love to come out, and there we go. Excellent. Thank you. Yeah. I was like, oh, Christina.
Can we get I'm having trouble finding the homestay document that he was referencing. Could someone send that to me at some point? Is that possible? Sorry, can I just add that as a request for information?
Yep.
With no urgency?
He's adding it to his
Okay, thank
request
you.
list. You bet. Perfect. So next we'll go back to trustee expense advance, and I'll turn it over at this point to Christine. I'm just scrolling, so give me a second as I scroll through all these. Let's take a 5-minute, so we'll come back at 4:05. Thanks. Okay, so back to the agenda. We are at 8.4 trustee expense advance. Christine Light.
Sorry. Stream my cookie. Yes, so I submitted this. I think sometimes when you realize I think when things unfold, what's missing within our policy to give us robust support for what we need to do. So background policy 206.1, trustee training and development. The policy is that the board expects that trustees should actively engage in training and development activities that will enhance their ability to fulfill the mission and vision of Lethbridge School Division and enhance the quality of effectiveness of public school governance in our community. And our trustees participate in this in many ways. Regulation 4 states an annual in-service budget for trustees shall establish individual allocations to encourage attendance at professional development activities related to the board's priorities. And Regulation 5 states the in-service budget, including all costs for travel and out-of-pocket expenses, shall be determined as part of budget deliberations. Lethbridge School Division Board of Trustees is committed to transparency and accountability to financial reporting and working within the approved annual budget. The current established individual allocations noted in the regulations above per trustee are $5,000 per trustee per year. Currently, there is no policy or process surrounding payment to trustees should expenses extend beyond the budgeted amount. As such, trustees can be paid above the established annual amount, lending money from future years. This sets neither a strong framework for trustees to be held to account for spending or clear parameters for operational staff to follow should this occur. So currently, the situation that did bring me to bring this to light, there is a trustee that is in excess of $8,000 overture. And I think with 2 years left, this is where my concern comes from. With 2 years left, that leaves less than $2,000 for PD, for expenses for this individual. So I'm concerned that operational staff have approved this amount. This being said, we do not have parameters within policy to give steps of what to do should it exceed the budget, period. And it is concerning that there wasn't communication to the board of this overture in advance in requesting payment for continued overture. And so as such, I move that the board discuss this issue and amend policy 206.1, trustee training and development, to include a regulation which states individual allocations can be carried forward until the end of a trustee's 4-year term. Borrowing of funds from the following year's allocation shall be kept at a minimum and only to fund a single event that there is an overage. Should the amount exceed $1,000, board approval at a regular board meeting is required prior to allocation payment. This scenario cannot occur in the final year of their term.
So a motion is on the floor to discuss this issue as well as amend the policy as Christine read and is in your board package. So looking for discussion on this. Christina.
Sorry, just a process question. Board policy, because it's ours, we can amend it this way. We don't have to bring it to anything. Is that correct? Yeah, sorry, I was just trying to review.
We can, there
Yeah.
is process in place, but we can amend any policy the board chooses to.
Okay.
Tyler?
Couple things. First of all, actually, I think first of all, I think our policy might be wrong because I believe our actual amount isn't 5,000 anymore. It's 4,500. It used to be 5,000, but Oh, is that,
It's
okay,
5,000, but 4,500 is put into your
Okay.
your travel bank. We pay you a $500 off every October, straight off the
right,
top.
for the,
And that's to
for
cover
the other events
any
and
other
things. Okay,
event
good.
that you wouldn't, yeah.
Fair
And I'll
enough.
actually,
It's a cash payment of 500.
and I'll actually provide a bit of clarification in that that amount is actually not in policy. Policy actually states that on an annual basis, the amount will be determined by the board at budget time. So that amount is actually not in policy. That is just the amount that Christine has highlighted in her background as this year's allotment is as stated in the background. That's not policy.
Okay, thanks. Um, For a lot of this is getting a little convoluted for me. Frankly, for me, you choose what you want to choose for PD, and whatever you choose is fine. I get the part about not wanting to run into too big of a deficit, but I think even if you spent all your money by year 2, I think that's, in my mind, that's fine. You just don't get any more. There's just got to be, we have to come to a point where this is what you get, this is what you get, unless there's some extreme extenuating circumstance where a board vote majority would extend that for some reason. So I don't, for, I get where we're headed with this, and I agree with the direction. What I don't want though is I don't want to be having to worry about someone's overage for $1,000 in year 2 and having that come to the board. And like, if you want to go somewhere and that happens to be, if you want to go to Australia and the flight to Australia happens to be $2,500 or 3,000, and that eats, it just, that trip happens to cost that much money, so be it. So I guess that's the only thing I'd really say on that. I agree that you have to keep this in line and you have to keep it in budget. So, but the timing of the payments for me, that's the part I'm not really on board with. So I guess I would say I'm not exactly sure. I can't remember where that part all was about how somebody runs over, but that's the part where we do definitely need to have some type of cap into what can be spent, and we need to have some type of procedure for when that happens, when you hit that or when you get close to the cap or whatever it is, that we do something from there. But I don't really agree with the $1,000 and a couple of the way the wording is in some of the recommendations.
And when you're talking cap, you're talking about the 4-year cap in total. Okay, thank you. Jenny?
I a couple of things. One of them being that if this is something that our governance budget is funding and as it should be, could it be something we could put in place that we get some sort of a process where we have more of the takeaway from that brought back to benefit the rest of the board, more of a here's the resources we gained, here's what we learned, and here's what I can share type of thing is sometimes I think what is an area that we could improve on at times. And then the other thought is, would it be possible to create a scenario where for myself, I can do my PD is generally going to be done online from home. My life circumstances don't make it easy for me to up and travel to receive PD, and I can receive PD at home, and it's not as fun and it's not as immersive, but I can take courses and I can do things virtually, and the cost to do that is far less. And so could we have something in place where if myself knowing I am not going to be using my allocation, can we create a pool that I can allocate it to go there to be used? Because if we are paying for PSBAA and we are supporting the work being done, it's tough to say, yep, we want to do that. Yep, we have somebody willing to go, but no, you're out of money. You can't go. Meanwhile, my money is unused. It's just the logic of it. Is there some way we can approach this in a way that we can allow for pooling and sharing?
And I can appreciate those comments. In regards to, there's a motion on the floor specifically about the borrowing of funds and the payment of overage piece, but that's certainly another conversation that can be had in regards to that pooling or borrowing to other trustees. And PSBA piece is, I think, a different discussion than the motion that's currently on the floor. And yes, you can certainly attend even ASBA, FGM. There's trustees in this room that have attended virtually for that. And there's definitely pluses and minuses depending on everybody's life circumstance of why you would do that. So other comments on the motion that's on the floor? Christina?
So I would agree with Tyler about the spending be capped at maximum of the sum of the 4 years generally, if that's not already the case. I think where I disagree though is I feel two ways about it. One, like pragmatically, the amount of money in the entire budget, like this is a drop in the budget relative. So I imagine the cash flow is, somewhat fine in this specific case. But for me, it's like the principle of, as governors, do we model the way that we want, and probably do, hopefully, hold accountable the staff within our division. And there's presumably not a one-to-one because I recognize that most of our staff have different, PD funds in different ways. But I imagine that schools in general are accountable to stay within their budget for the year. Because if it were to be widespread, that would be not sustainable in terms of cash flow. And so I struggle with, like, pragmatically, it's probably fine if we go over and just kind of do whatever, but in the principle of modeling what we want in our division, which is financial responsibility, I would be in favor of holding the board to that same requirement. I would be open to like changing the amount in terms of like how much you request or something, like to try to recognize that sometimes I think policy numbers tend to be stagnant when costs change. Like we were just talking about like Australia, right? Or even the numbers here around the amount for an average cost for things, right? We can see that potentially going to like a couple major ones in a certain year because of the convenience. So for example, we went to Banff because it was here, right? So going to that. But if you also had another one that was also conveniently placed and it was like a once in a term, we could have that conversation easily. And I don't think it would take up too much of the board's time to approve it quickly. And demonstrate that fiscal responsibility. So I would be in favor of the recommendation as stated, but I would be open to friendly amendments of the number changing if that would be more amenable. So, yeah.
Craig?
I changed my mind. I will speak on this. Until we decide what to do with funding PSBAA the same as ASBA, I will not support this. That's the big elephant in the room. And we have to figure out how to do that. If the funding is changed on how we fund PSBAA so that it's the same as ASBA, then I would look back at maybe going back and looking at this policy, but as it stands, I'm not in favor of it until we discuss the other part.
Thank you. Having most people have spoken, for me, I am not in support of this amendment either. I don't, I think I've said this many times, I don't agree with changing the rules while we're in the middle of a game. And we're in the middle of a game. You certainly, not that this is a game by any means, but we're in the middle of of our term. And as you alluded to, there was a trustee that's $8,000 over, which would put them pretty much at the end of our term, which when you change these rules, it would then have somebody outside of those rules. I don't believe in changing the rules when we're in the middle of that for one circumstance, right? So to me, it's a more of a look at what are our other issues, concerns, challenges. So I see that we have two motions that were passed in our books. One is that we will not, if you're going to attend PSBA, it has to come out of your personal PD. And then the other motion is that, or approval, if it wasn't actually a motion, is that Craig is our representative for PSBA. So in order for Craig to be able to attend PSBAA, he is far outside for him to represent what we've asked him to do to represent. So I think that there's more discussion that needs to happen that is fully outside of changing the rules while we're in the middle of what we're dealing with. And I think that this deserves much more discussion to figure out the other pieces that we need to figure out over changing policy because of a situation that we're in. So I am not in favor of the amendment that has been presented. So with that, the motion is on the floor and no further comments or questions. So I will look for those in favor and those opposed. Sorry. Okay, you were in favor? Okay. You got that, Kristen? So that motion is defeated. So next, we'll move on to review and revision of board policies. And that's Jenny.
Thank you. Just as a background, generally speaking, board policies perform a lot of functions, but overarchingly, they are something we use to guide our governance and for our division to inform the procedures. And they also provide a point of reference for all of us and for operations. A lot of discussion has been had regarding our policies, accessibility of them, and using them effectively. And it's been recognized a few times that our policies are numerous and at times redundant. We have some of the same information in more than one location, and the desire has been expressed to look at those and to look for ways to explore improvement for them. So discussion has been held regarding organization, accessibility, and appropriate classification of documents as policy. A lot of conversation is had over, is this policy, is it procedure? And so organizing that. And so our ongoing discussion is centered around a strategy for improvement. And as part of that strategy, the idea has been put on the table to reach out and to seek outside consultation to aid us in that process. But looking at doing that, we would like to first have an idea of the cost and what that process would look like. And so the motion that I put on the table is, do you want me to give the motion now or allow for discussion?
You can give the motion, then we can discuss that motion.
That I would like to put on the table is I move that the board seek further information to develop strategy for a review and revision of our policies as a whole, including obtaining financial quotes for the cost of obtaining outside consultation to the process.
Thank you. Looking for discussion on the motion on the floor. Craig?
I agree.
Other comments or questions? Christina?
I just want to be clear because unless I hear otherwise, that would change my mind. I'm going to vote no on this, but I just want to be clear about why. Because I really value policy and procedure and strong governance, and I don't want the perception to be that I don't value that work and that I don't try very hard to contribute to that in the existing methods that we have, including our policy advisory committee. For me, again, it's just about the financial sustainability of projects of the board and the way that we request work from our administrator. This isn't, I know this is simply the request for information, but the request for information includes the financial quotes, which if we got them, because my guess is that that will be the will of the board to get those, that I'll also vote no on approving them because we don't have those fees in our budget. I value forethought in education, and I think education as a whole tends to be like pretty spur of the moment because kids are ever changing humans. But I think on a governance level, we owe it to the system to slow it down a little bit, and I don't. Similar to what Allison was saying about changing things in the middle of the game, we didn't prioritize this in our funding budget when we had the opportunity in the spring, and so I just I'll be voting no on for that reason specifically, not because I don't value the work that is very likely to come from that request. So, thanks.
Thank you. Other comments? Craig?
Things happen in divisions where we haven't budgeted for. Simple as that. And this is one area that is the board's work. It's not a committee, a review committee. It's the board's work. And the request for information is going to allow us to find the most efficient way funded to be able to bring what I would say our board into the 21st century. We know that when I have talked to other boards and they ask me how many policies I have, their mouth drops to the floor. So this is a priority. And the only way you're going to do it is to have a consultant come in so that it doesn't become onerous on Mike. And Mike admitted that this is out of his wheelhouse basically. And for the board to do it effectively, we have to have a consultant that we pay for, and he works with us. And you can still do all the other priorities. And I can guarantee you that by the end of this year, we would have a very good working relationship with a consultant that would have us pared down to the right number of policies that represent the board and then procedures. And then it's a matter of the board moving forward and using the review committee to vet those procedures with our stakeholders. And that's the main job of the review committee. So I really feel that this is an adequate one. We might have to adjust a little bit for the request for information because there's a couple of things that I've looked at and maybe Jenny's looked at that we could change. But other than that, I'm comfortable with this, and it's going to give us an idea of where to go and how fast we can do it and what the price is.
Thank you. Tyler?
This, everything with policy comes up, I don't know, every meeting, I guess. So for us to do this, I'm on board having a look at this and basically just to get recommendations and costing. If the recommendation is as a board, we need to sit down twice a week for the next 6 months and do our policies. That's not going to be something I'm going to get on board with. But either way, we need to know. We need to know what needs to be done. Is this something that a consultant can help policy review committee with? Is this something that the whole board needs to do? How long is it going to take? What's it going to cost? So I think until we have those answers, there's just not a lot we can do. So I'm definitely on board to see, just kind of get a professional opinion of where we're headed and what's required, and then we can make decisions further from there.
So I can speak I'll be speaking in favor of this motion. I do think that policies are our wheelhouse to be dealing with, and I think that we have been talking about this for a while. It's certainly not something that is in the same relation that we're just dealing with it while we're in the middle of it. I think it's something that has been very important. We have policies where we have things that people go to look in our policies and you can find it in 4 and 5 different places. We have things where our board meeting, says that we start at 3:30. We start at 2:30. We've done that for 2 years. There's things in there, when I brought up when we first got on with ex officio, it had contradictory that one said ex officio has voting rights, one that it doesn't. There's many places that, speak to that we need to make some changes to this. And with doing a request for information is just to find out that is information about what we need to do going forward, depending on the cost and budget. What we get back will determine my next decision of what our next steps are once we know what the cost is. And yes, this piece wasn't in this budget that we just approved, but going forward, it's something that we could approve in the next budget. But I need to see the numbers, and we can't get there until we do this request. One of the big things for me is that when we bring items forward, we always look at how does that impact our superintendent and his staff. And when we've asked this question of our superintendent, how does this impact um, him and his staff? We've been clearly told over and over again that the capacity isn't there with everything that's on the plate of our staff within our division. And I think it is only prudent for us to look at other options for us to continue doing the governance work that we need to do. So with that, I will be voting in favor of this motion. So just looking for any last conversation. Christina?
So a question for clarity. So the information that we'd be seeking, is the intention or what is the shared understanding about if we got this information, is the intention to act on it this fiscal year or next fiscal year? Because maybe I'm don't have the same shared understanding.
Yep. So the letter was in your,
Yeah.
like you were provided that
Mhm.
letter. So once that information comes forward, then as a board, we can have a discussion of what that looks like. I don't know. It
Okay.
depends on if it's $2,000 or if it's $200,000 for me, that's two very different decisions that I would be looking at. So I need to see the information for me personally to make that next step. So. Okay. So seeing no further questions, those in favor of the motion on the floor? And those opposed? And that's carried. And next is 8.6, that addition PSBAA allocation. Craig?
Yes, again, I apologize, but we cannot go one more year without funding the rep to PSBA properly. It's about, well, you know what it is. It's about for me to go to all the meetings, which there's 5 or 6. You can see the totals there, and it's about $10,000. Now, and Christine Lee has been put in how many, if we had 5 trustees, 4 or 3 that went to both of the major meetings and the shortfall. And now I have ideas on how to compensate for that without adding a lot of money to the budget. But that's probably another decision. But one way is that we could cut down our personal PD from 5 to 3,000, which would then give us $21,000 to fund public school boards representation at the meetings. And if you look at all of the different things there, that would still give us an opportunity to go to the different conferences. One of the things that we haven't been able to look at is by being members of public school boards and ASBA, there's a lot of really good PD that we probably don't have to go out of province to get. I don't know if you received the email, but I will pass it on because it was sent to me. Public School Boards has just developed 21 modules of board governance with the Ontario, and I can't remember the whole thing, but it's an education, part of education in Ontario, and adapted it to the Alberta situation. That 21 modules is completely free to public school board members. So that's you can do that actually worth it of what we're paying to be members of it. We have actual PD that is free that would teach all of us a better idea of governance on our board. And it goes through 21 different modules. So we have to, if we voted, and I'll just give you an idea that once you join PSBAA, you can't leave for, even if you voted to disband it next budget, we still have to be there for another year. So we have to fund public school boards properly. And I don't care how we figure it out, but I'm going to move that we fund public school boards the same as ASBA as part of our governance budget. That's the motion. We can sit down with Christine Lee, we can sit down as a board and figure out how we're going to do it. I've given a couple of ideas, but we really have to deal with that. And that's the only motion, is that as long as it's covered, then some of the other discussions can be changed. But I'm strapped, and I don't want to get another email from Christine Lee telling me that I'm way over budget. But really, the board made a decision to be part of public school boards. We have to fund it properly. Simple as that. So I'll leave it at that.
So I know that you have a motion on the floor. I am certainly in support of that motion. But that being said, I am wondering if you would be willing to table this. I, as well as other trustees, probably are in the same situation that we received this information for the first time today. It's quite small print. I'd like to be able to review it further. And I think that in saying that I would request that you table it, I also understand that that's still a month away before we would look at it again, and for you to get reimbursed for anything will put you over your budget limit. So with that, tabling would probably need you to not be getting that expense. But I think for me, I need to take time to read what's been submitted to us and offered to us as information. Tyler, and then Jenny.
I'm actually in agreement with the tabling of it for now, just to think about it. But a couple of comments. One is, this is back to the reason why I voted against PSBAA to begin with, is just because the costs of it are significant. And I can agree with what's being said about PSBA, that, okay, look, we voted to be a part of it, so it needs to be funded. I can agree with that. However, ASBA generally consists of two meetings, an AGM and an FGM, that people go to. There's not 6 meetings. So the part the part I will not get on board with in this is the fact that we're going to attend 6+ meetings a year for this, especially when those can be attended online. There's just not a reason for us to pay to send a rep to Edmonton, to Red Deer, to wherever we're meeting all the time, and to pay the travel costs and hotel costs and per diem when they can be done here. Now, if we're going to say fund it like ASBA, okay, fair enough. Then if we are we going to fund an a spring SGM and a fall SGM every year? Okay, you could probably get me on board that. I can probably live with that, but I'm not good with free reign for up to 7 trustees to go to a meeting 6 times a year and spend that kind of money. That's insanity to me. Like, that's a lot of money. That's a couple few EAs a year that I'm not willing to put forward on that. So as you review the information and think about those things, I just want you to think about that if that's the case, I'm fine with, attending a couple meetings a year as we would with ASBA, but I'm not at all comfortable with funding 6 meetings a year, even if it's just for our rep. Still, no, those things can be attended online. The general regular meetings. You don't think you need to go to 6 meetings a year out of 10 months that we're even in school. And September and June are kind of iffy as it is. So you're kind of 6 out of 8, 9 months. So that's a lot.
Jenny?
Craig, do you mind repeating the motion for me? What is the actual motion on the table?
The actual motion is that we fund PSBAA the same as ASPA. That's it. And that it comes out of governance, not PD.
Go ahead,
Yeah, I
Christine.
think you need to clarify that you, that trustees' attendance at PSBA meetings and events would be funded part of the general governor's budget and not out of trustee personal professional development
Thank you.
funds.
Yeah, that's what I really meant.
Did you catch that? Oh, I was just freewheeling. Okay. Yes, we have a recording. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, we'll
Yeah.
look back at it.
Okay. Andrea,
So would that clarify in the same way as ASPA that it would be 2 meetings? Do we need to put that in there? Like 2 away meetings rather than 6?
Christine, and then Craig.
Let me, maybe, can I explain a little bit about this chart? Just so
Sure.
for, I mean, obviously you want more time to look at it.
Yep.
So what this chart did, just so you're aware, is we took the average, we kind of did in 22, 23, all the costs of attending ASBA, all the attends PSBA. We also included for information cost to attend CSBA and NSBA. But we did the average cost to attend an ASBA meeting worked out to about 1,400, and the average cost to a PSBA was about 1,900. And so then when I did in my chart, I said, okay, if all 7 trustees, because when you make a blanket statement that you're going to fund exactly like PSBA or ASBA, because ASBA is any ASBA event is funded from the governance budget, not your personal PD. If I assumed all trustees went to both the spring and the fall of ASBA and the spring and the fall's PSBA, and that doesn't include any of the other meetings in between a PSBA, so just the 2 of each, that's a total cost on average about $46,000. Right now, your personal PD is 35, so that then means the total potential, if everybody attends, is $81,000. So that's a shortfall of about, in our budget, of about $29,000. Now, on the other end, I did if 5 attend on it, because not everybody's going to go to everything. That's just a given. I did from 5, 4, and 3. So 3 trustees on average to everything, plus your personal PD, is where it gets close to break even, and it's at $2,200. So it really is dependent on, if you go to everything, then we can't afford it. Like if everybody goes to the fall and the spring and the fall and the spring, we can't afford it. But if you only go some, then it makes it work out with what we have in our budget. So yeah, that's sort of it's doable, but if everybody goes, it isn't. The bottom line.
Just in explaining the chart and the documents that we received, do you have, and if you don't have them right now, that's fine, but the information above is on an average. Do you know over the last 2 years that this board's been trustees, could you find out what out of the general governance budget for attendance at ASBA was for this current board, and provide us with that information? Correct.
How many
Yep. Yep.
attended the spring and the thing? You could
Correct.
probably take a poll. They probably.
I know, but I'm looking for dollar figures out of the governance general governance budget so that we have an idea.
It's an average. So it's 1,900 times all this would tell you, or 1,400. 1, 2, 3, 8 times 1,400. So last year it was 11,200 was spent on ASBA, and then for PSBA, 1,900 times 6 is 11,400. So they're about equal. 11,200, 11,400.
And does this include the executive council that would have attended?
No,
That's just
this is
trustees.
just trustees. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Executive council gets charged to not the governor's budget, but superintendent or business and finance.
Craig, sorry.
So first of all, ASBA has 2 general meetings, that's true, but ASBA has a zone meeting every month. And that's open to all trustees. So if we all went to the ASBA board zone meeting, we would have more costs, although the travel would be less. I will admit that. What we don't seem to understand is that when I go up on the other 4 times, we actually have a public school council meeting of which I'm a member. And it's and I want to express this very carefully. When we are in a council meeting, all of the boards have 1 vote. That means Edmonton Public doesn't have any more votes than I do. And when we vote according to the 29 or 30 boards that are members. Everybody has 1 vote. We don't have the same power in ASBA because ASBA has the 50, some of the votes are 50% of the boards plus 50% of the total students. So it's not to me, it's not a waste of money to be up there. And the other thing is that I have learned a lot of things from a lot of different boards about some of the policies they pass, some of the motions, some of the problems that they're having, which, believe it or not, are similar to ours. And so being able to have that, let's say, hallway conversation with trustees that have the same view of public education. And that's the other thing is that when ASBA makes a vote, you remember that ASBA is the Catholic schools and the Francophone schools. When we do a vote, it's the public schools. And we have different concerns than the Catholic schools and the Francophone schools. At the 4 council meetings, that I'm fine with going. I don't like to go up to our general meeting and be alone. And it was pretty obvious at the last one that I was alone. But there are ways that we can look at it. And honestly, when we're talking about a budget of governance, again, remind everyone that we're 0.3%. So adding an extra 10 or 15,000 or 20,000 to the budget isn't going to make a difference in the classroom. The other thing is if we just took the government budget alone, we're 10% of the 4 million, whatever, the 3.16 or 3.61, I can't remember the exact thing, but there's room there. And it's not going to affect the kids. But some of the decisions made at the board, at these meetings, can affect the kids positively. We are now meeting with the minister on a regular basis. So we're not just going up and having ASBA dictate, and that's fine. ASBA does a good job. They have a good job of PD. Public school boards has a good job of PD. But we have to treat it like governance, like ASBA. And so that's all. And we can sit down later if this motion passes. All I want is that because I live on a budget and this is expensive. I just need to be covered. Maybe not by November, but sooner than that. But we just need to treat it the same. And I know that when I've gone to public ASBA, we've only had 3, maybe 4 trustees at the maximum. So, and I appreciate Christine Lee taking the time to do this. And there's some areas that I can give you insight on how we can make this so that we don't increase the budget very much. But it takes cooperation of the whole board. But I just hopefully that we would pass, that we would treat it as the same as ASBA, and that we will sit down later and that it doesn't come out of PD, and that we can figure it out, even if we talked about it at the committee at the whole, and then had a better motion in November. And again, I sincerely apologize to all of the board members because I thought it was going to be done, and then I would have had a motion, but things were beyond my control.
Tyler and then Jenny.
I just have one thing for a point of excuse me, a point of clarification. Ever since I started on the board, any meetings that are done inside a town are not supposed to be claimed for. So I have some concerns in the fact that it was stated that if everyone went to the ASBA that was local, that we'd be claiming per diems for that. Because we get a monthly stipend allowance, per diem, whatever you want to call it, we're not supposed to claim per diems for anything of our meetings in town and other things that we go to. The exceptions to that are the board strategic retreat, because that's an all-day kind of event, and the only other thing is negotiations, because that's a rare kind of thing that happens. Again, tend to be all-day events. So if we have people claiming for going to ASBA local, I would like us to confirm with that, because to my understanding of the knowledge is because we are paid something on a monthly basis, we are not to be making any claims for meetings like that in town. So I just want to clarify that, and which would then negate the point of that we're really only paying for 2 meetings for ASBA, because ASBA locals outside of Tabor, the one in Tabor that happens, are here.
And I think there would need to be some clarification because even the board strategic planning and negotiations, that's not written anywhere in regards to, it's not in policy, though. Yeah, but it's nowhere online to be found to have that information. So it's certainly not.
Yeah, so it's just for trustees information in your orientation packages, how that works is what we've provided in the past.
Okay. And I don't think it actually is clear in regards to the strategic planning, because if you look at the first year of strategic planning, I don't believe that many trustees claimed because they didn't know that that was something that they could have access to. So I don't think that those pieces, I get that you're bringing those up today, but I don't think that those pieces are clearly laid out. And I think that that clarity would be important for sure in terms of what that looked like. Jenny.
I respect the request to take time to look at this. That being said, if we're taking that time, could I request, Craig, of you when you bring this motion back, that it be restated to describe what it means to fund it the same way we fund ASBA? I know Christine gave some of that clarification, but if we can write that into the motion and maybe to suggest something along the lines, I appreciate the conversation about limitations on that. That we need to perhaps attend out of town the two meetings a year and look at the possibility of attending some of the council meetings virtually, or however we look at adding those limitations, whether we assign an amount to it, because depending on how many trustees go, that you know that there's some fluctuation room there, and so I'm not sure how you want to do it, but if you wouldn't mind considering writing in some of that, something that reflects a limitation to, so that it's not, all 7 of us going to all 6 meetings is for obvious reasons. It's not reasonable. So thank you.
Craig.
A couple last comments. A former trustee of Lethbridge, who is no longer around, once told me when we were both on the Zone 6 HASBA meeting that she loved being on that committee because she got paid a per diem. So that was happening. So let's clarify that. I would be willing to table this so that we can further discuss it. And I will work with Christine Lee on presenting a more, not a package that's going to show if we do some different things, we could save some money. I have no problem with that. I just, again, I reiterate that I am on a pension and I have some expenses that need to be paid. So, but I will table the motion so that we can move on, if that's the consensus of the board.
Thank you. So those in favor of tabling? It will be tabled and you'll need to submit if you'd like that at the
Yes, I
November
will.
meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So we will get through part of our division highlights so that we can proceed on, and we will stop at 5 o'clock to be able to have our public forum portion. So I am looking for our division highlights, and who would like to go first? Andrea.
So this last month, um, I was invited to Senator Buchanan for their Terry Fox Day and to talk about my cancer journey and Terry Fox. And it was, those children are so young and yet they listened so carefully. It was amazing. And it was small groups of children. So thank you to them for inviting me. My daughter Alyssa teaches there, and I also taught their principal grade 1. So it was nice to be in this school. I also went to the North Side Indigenous Bingo Night, and that was wonderful. And one little guy who won a prize actually gave 2 out of the 4 things he won away. And that was just so touching. I think there wasn't a dry eye. I got to Plaxton and Senator Buchanan council meetings, and wonderful to meet those parents and see all the work that they do there. I haven't been able to get to Emmanuel Christian Secondary School yet because of illness, but I will get there. And also at the end of September, I just wanted to mention when Shawnee spoke at the LCI Truth and Reconciliation, um, when they wound up their week of learning, it was just ever so touching.
Well, thanks, Andrea. Who would like to go next? Craig.
I attended the flag raising at GS Lakey while everyone else was at LCI. And that was good. And one of the special, I'll just say, one of the special performances was from a boy from Kainai that merged indigenous native dancing with modern hip hop dancing, and it was quite spectacular. And I've gone to the Winston Churchill High School School Council, and because of illness and that, I haven't been able to do much other.
Excellent, thank you. And with that, I think we will just move to our public forum portion that is about to start. So I'll just look to our public members here just to understand, is everybody here with football? Yes, okay. So is there one person that will be speaking? Not quite here yet, okay. So you wanna, we'll hold off for a couple of minutes. Sounds good. So let's carry on. And is there anybody online for public forum? No? Okay, so we will carry on with our division highlights, and then just give me a nudge when the gentleman arrives. So who would like to go next for division highlights? Christine?
This month I've been able to tour some of my schools and attend some school councils, but one event I'd like to highlight was at the end of the month. I was able to attend Ecole Agnes Davidson's Taste of the Nations, and it was such a phenomenal night. They did such a great job. This was led by their grade 3 team, and what they had was students and their families come and teach the community about their heritage through food and or dance and or video presentation. There was a Russian grandmother who sang folk songs, and there was so much food. And what was really cool was to see the pride of the students when they were talking about their family and their home and where they come from. And when I was getting food from one mom, She said to me, I had no idea how to make this last week. And so I had to call my mom to learn about our family heritage so I can learn how to make this. So it was just really neat how the learning extended beyond the kids.
Well, thanks for sharing, Christine. Perfect. So our guy, he's on crutches. You're gonna be speaking for us? Okay, I'll have you come up to the pardon? Yeah, no worries. Okay. They're on their way? Just right there. Okay. Five maximum. Yeah, yeah. We're not going that way. Okay. So for our public forum, thank you for taking time to join the public forum and present to the board. We appreciate public members coming forward to express a concern or perspective. The board will listen carefully to your presentation and carefully consider what you have said today. The board will not be providing a response or engaging dialogue following your presentation. We will, however, provide a written response in the near future. So you have up to 5 minutes to present, and Christine Lee will be timing, and she'll give you a flag if you're running close to that 5 minutes. Thank you.
Greetings to the board, our school division leaders, and members of the public here today. We appreciate you allowing us to come share our message today with you. We believe that shutting down the entire Chinook High School team is an immense miscarriage of justice. Poor leadership and misuse of power has done far more damage than good. Those involved in the innocent, that both the Lethbridge Police Service and the school division are on record stating that it is an isolated incident, were dealt with in the legal system. This still leaves almost 50 innocent boys, many in their final year of play, with scholarships and prospects for post-secondary erased without consultation or due process. 18 years worth of blood, sweat, and tears gone in an instant, and for what? What message have we sent here? I know what I have learned. I have learned that adults in charge care more about what others think that are not involved than think about me than what has happened to us. I fear that every one of the students I go to school with just learned how awful the experience will be to share any incidents of abuse. They will take away your team, your friends, make statements online about the entire group, abandon you, and then tell you that they have the best interests at heart for you. I fear that the next time something happens to anyone, they will see how horrible this was, like my teammates, and any victim and choose to stay silent. If this injustice were not enough, our teammate, the victim of this incident, was devastated alongside all of us yesterday afternoon when we were all told that we won't get to play together, to be together, or to heal together and move on together. The false narrative that our mental well-being was a top priority in the parent meeting with our school and school division leaders has proved to be a lie. The trauma already caused by taking away our season, our time together, and our chance to heal has caused many of us sleepless nights, counseling sessions, and potential several players for self-harm. We cannot control what the public, who does not have any of the facts, thinks about us. What we can control is our response to it. The greatest harm we have experienced is the public outcry for justice and our school division making statements insinuating that we are all guilty and that there's, quote, culture and history of abuse in our program. Trust is lost in our system and in our division leaders that they said they would take care of us and do the right thing and get us back together. Myself and my teammates have been called rapists and worse, several times a day. We have had our names splashed all over social media, our addresses posted online, and calls for us to be punished further. Through all of this, we did exactly what was asked of us by our school division leaders, only to be let down and told that it was in our best interest to cancel the season entirely. We cannot understand how punishing the innocent players sends the message that, that hope has been received. Clearly, our own feelings, needs, and wants were traded for the fear of reprisal by many voices outside our own school community. We were told this was national news. Only the nation is not there to provide support and protection for us, the players. Our division is not either. We feel abandoned and accused of wrongdoing, and and not at any time did our leaders publicly stand by the rest of us. Not a single one of us can complain to our friends and family why we were shut down and not to have them assume that we all did something wrong. We pray others will be treated with more love and respect in the future, with more consideration and consequences of such actions. We hope in the future that you all care about the people in our own community who are directly involved over others who are detached and immune to the consequences of this awful decision. Thank you.
We'll look to the board for any questions of clarification. Seeing none, on behalf of the board, thank you very much for your presentation. We appreciate public members coming forward to express a concern or perspective. You can be assured that the board will carefully consider what you have said today and provide a response in the near future. So with that, the board will take a 5-minute recess and we'll come back in 5 minutes. Thank you. recess, so we are back. We have one other member that has requested to speak as well. So I understand, Mel, that you would like to come up and speak. So if you can join us at the front, please. And it's the same preamble of the up to 5 minutes, and just take a look over at Christine Lee. Will give you the. Pardon me? Okay, thank you, Mel. On the front, it says talk. Yep, there you go. Thank you. Go ahead, Mel.
I'm a senior and retired. I have 3 grandsons on the football team. One of our grandsons came from Manitoba. He was denied a program in Manitoba because he lives in a district they didn't have a football team and they don't allow them to cross and play for other teams. So he came here. So that's quite an impact for him to be denied football twice. And he's got brothers that are in junior football and looking forward to CFL contracts, and he's way better than they were. I have a conflicts of interest because my son is one of the coaches and I have 3 grandsons, but I can't remain silent when injustices have been done. And I'm sorry, but this is a real injustice, and I can't sit and stand still. I've been in schools all of my life. I was an administrator in school district number 51 when child-centered decisions were always made. And I still believe in this district that child-centered decisions can be made. And I just want to emphasize that the problem is not football here, it's right here. You've missed the mark. Social media. When in social media, the Lethbridge Herald and all this hype started happening, and then I heard about Kevin Cameron coming in from all of his prowess with all the shootings and W.R. Myers and all the stuff that he's done. He's done a lot of great work, but I knew he'd be a catalyst towards the wrong direction. As long as the media and all the social media, all these catalysts that have put it. If you understand kids of this age, if I sent Kevin Cameron to any high school in Alberta right now and asked him to go do a bullying research and talk to all the kids, you'd shut down all the schools. I guess, Mr. Nightingale, I think you'd shut down the schools because that's the kind of information you get if you understand kids of this age. You start asking them questions, they're going to tell you. Some people will tell you the truth. Other kids have real fears. And I don't want to downplay the seriousness of this for the person that was assaulted here. But if we really later on, when it's too late for this football team, find out all the facts, I think we'll find out there's some real problems here with the whole community. What do they think of a sexual assault? It's like Aiden said, people are thinking of rape and all these things. So I'm sorry. The trauma consultant should have suggested, and I was so surprised, I was a little bit surprised that he suggested shutting down the team because of the obvious trauma that now he's caused from you accepting his thing as one of the basis. I got a text call back from an email that I sent to a trustee, and they used that as well. Kevin Cameron said that. But I'm sorry, the consultant's recommendations, it's his business. He should have just done the normal things, but if he didn't give a good serious thing like shutting something down, why would we hire him? Why would we spend that money to do that kind of thing? I'm assuming that he was paid for this. I could be wrong. The normal things that should have been done at this time, the counseling, having people work through these things. They didn't shut down W.R. Myers. They worked with the kids. They counseled. They're learning things that go on. You don't shut down the music program. You don't shut down the whole school to deal with these things. You let these kids grow and develop. You train the staff. You learn how to handle harassment and bullying and do things constructively around the school to change. By shutting things down and putting it in a corner, you're not solving any problems. The consultant, I'm sure maybe did give some of those other things, but to use the consultants, the one that made the decision, no. Our superintendent of schools should be making the decision, and the school board should be backing him up on the right decision that's child-centered. By shutting down this season, you've proven to our community that these kids are evil. They're all guilty of being something to fear and shun, And I'm sorry you've traumatized instead of helped. Thank you.
Again, I'll ask any trustees if there's any clarifying questions. And seeing none, it's the same response, Mel, that on behalf of the board, thank you for your presentation. We appreciate public members coming forward to express a concern or perspective, and you can be assured that the board will carefully consider what you have said today and provide a response in the near future. Thank you. And I see there's one more comment from for public forum. You can make a question, but whether we can answer or not, go ahead.
Thank you. It's a great question. It was something I did meet with one of the administrators about that process, and my understanding of it was that the best thing was to have people that and have have relationship with. So, but I recognize that and I apologize. I recognize that you as the team felt I should have been there, and I apologize.
Thank you all for coming. So with that, we will carry on with our division highlights. So I still have Craig. You did yours, Tyler. Right. Jenny. Christina.
Getting the flashing light of impending battery.
You have the dying mic.
Yeah.
Do
I
you want
had
to
a-
wait just a moment?
Yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead, Christina.
Um, yeah, I had a chance to go to Galbraith's school council, and my highlight is just I always love going to elementary school councils in particular because I love speaking with families and parents who are always so engaged in their child's learning. And what I find really special about it is it's often like the first time they're getting engaged with the school, and so a chance to explain the role of the board and the role of sort of each of the levels and how decisions get made is really exciting thing for me uh, to help families better navigate for the rest of their students' educational career. And so I always find that a huge privilege to be at elementary school councils in particular. So I really enjoyed that this month.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Christina. So I can go next while Jenny takes another moment. So for me, I had great opportunities to get out to some schools and then also some other meetings. So one thing that I'd like to highlight is I had the opportunity to attend Coalbanks Elementary, and as much as it was a Spanish evening, it was very clear to see that entire school community was there to celebrate and enjoy an evening of Spanish culture. And it was just great. It was a bit of a chilly evening, but it was still an evening that we were able to be outside with families, and there was no parking anywhere nearby because there was just that many families that had come out to enjoy the celebration. So it was great. I also got to attend a few school councils, but I'd also like to highlight that as ex officio board chair, I get to attend a number of committee meetings. So just want to recognize and highlight the amazing work that are is happening within our division that on committees. So we have a number of staff, we have parents that come into those meetings, and just to see those committees operate in our division and the great work that our committees are doing. I was able to attend the policy intervention, poverty intervention committee, sorry, policy intervention. We do need a policy intervention committee. Poverty intervention committee, Spirit of 51, as well as division school councils. So just amazing the work that our committees do within our division. So that is it for me for division highlights. And Jenny, just finish us off.
I just want to highlight I had the opportunity to attend Lethbridge Christian School for their parent council and to attend their school for a few different events. And um, I wanted to highlight and appreciate the the uniqueness of that school and the opportunity and gift it is for us as a division to be able to embrace unique schools as a part of a whole and to have that unity within our division and the way that we collaborate so well together and work so well and the communication I received from some of the teachers and administrators about how supported they feel within our division and the positive things they had to share with me about being a part of the division and that positive feedback was really nice to hear and just that work being done by our division and to have that acknowledged by some of our employees was neat to hear and to see the passion that those teachers have for their own students and for the pride that they have in their own school culture as well was really neat to see. And I know that that's not unique to just Lethbridge Christian, that as I travel from school to school, there's a lot of school pride. And it's fun to see, especially in our elementary schools, the kids wearing their swag and wearing their hoodies and their t-shirts and you go from school to school and you see a few kids always every day in some of their swag and it's just really I just want to highlight some of the school pride that comes out in our students and in our staff at each of our schools.
Thank you, Jenny. And thank you, everyone, for sharing your division highlights. It's great to hear about the amazing things in our division. Next, we'll move on to the board chair report, and the first item is community conversations. So you'll see there that our next one is on November 14th from 6 to 7:30 at Westminster Community Hall on the north side. I realized after I booked it that it was 2 that were both in the evening. So hopefully our next one will be a daytime one so that we can capture some other parents. But that will appreciation to the Westminster Community Hall for allowing us to be able to use their space and for us to go on to the north side of our community. So, and if you guys can share those at your school council meetings, that'll be great. And I know Garrett always posts that online. Next is the request for information public forum and presentations. And this is Mike in response to that request from last month.
Yeah, thanks, Allison. Just got to get to the right page here. So as you all know, at the last regular board meeting, there was a motion where I was asked to find policies and practices from other boards or other jurisdictions related to public presentations and public forums. So you've been provided with a summary. It's all taken from publicly available documents. I cut and paste the relevant excerpts as best as I could find them. As you know, if, for example, you're looking for Lethbridge School Division, our stuff is in 3 different policies, so I didn't go searching through multiple policies. I just tried to find the information as best I could. There was actually interesting, there was very few that do what we do. There's very few that have a public forum. I think Edmonton Public did, don't quote me on the exact ones, but most of them didn't. Most of them had something that was more similar to our presentation concept. So we tend to have our public forum, which is more open, and our presentation, which is there's some more guidelines on it, that sort of thing. Yeah, so definitely, I don't know that I covered everything for every school division in terms of what they do, but I think it gives us a good starting point. We also put in City of Lethbridge there just so you have an idea of their procedures as well. So So with
Thank
that,
you.
yeah, I think really the
Yeah,
next
good.
question is, what are we doing with the info?
Sounds good. So thank you for providing that information. It certainly is what I had requested in the intent of me putting that forward. So with that, I would like to make a motion that the I should have wrote out the motion. Just a motion that this information go forward to the Policy Advisory Committee for their next meeting, for them to proceed on reviewing public forum and presentation policies and continue on with their regular process to review that policy with the information that's been provided. So with that, I'll open it up for questions or comments. Seeing no questions or comments, I'll move to question. Those in favor? And those opposed? And that's carried. Thank you, Mike, for gathering that information and then forwarding it on. Thank you. Next is 10.3 Play and Learn program. And that is Mike as well.
Yes, so at the last board meeting, there was a request that we explore the idea of play and learn programs such as Medicine Hat, consider a site visit. I'll do the update, but Andrea will jump in with anything that I miss. So we did meet, myself, Morag, and Rochelle Neville met. We had a good conversation about early learning, the different programs. Rochelle provided us with an overview of programs in Lethbridge School Division. We do have one that's sort of similar-ish. Medicine Hat Public, Red Deer Public, Holy Spirit, and Palliser. Andrew and Rochelle are planning a visit to Medicine Hat School Division. And then, as you know, in our next November Committee of the Whole meeting, Rochelle will come and she's going to have a conversation with us about EAP, about kindergarten. She'll talk about some of this. There might be an opportunity for Andrea to report back, depending on if they've done their trip or not. You know, there's a couple things that we want to explore in that session. Is first of all, how is early learning? We're going to talk about early learning. How is it organized in the division? What's the background, the history, all those sorts of things. And then we'd like to discuss how do we better support our families to choose kindergarten. And so part of that is the play and learn concept, those sorts of things, partnerships with daycares, whatever that might be. Just how do we support our families so kindergarten is a viable option for them. Anything I missed, Andrea?
No, you did a wonderful job. And I'm really looking forward to that visit and also to having Rochelle come to Community of the Whole. And the one thing I wondered was another trustee wanting to come on that visit.
Do you know when it is?
No, we have quite a few dates in
Okay.
November that we have set out. And then she is reaching out to Medicine Hat right now, but we've narrowed down.
I think if
some
you
dates.
could let us know when it is,
When it
and
is,
then
okay.
if there is a trustee that is interested and they could ride along in the car, that'd be great to have that additional trustee.
Great, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you for the information. Not seeing any other questions, we'll move on. Division School Council Trustee Attendance Update, and that's, I think, a verbal one from Mike.
Yep, I'll just give it. Sorry, I had to look on my phone to Shelley Roost and I were emailing about this. I wanted to make sure I captured the conversation. So there was actually a bit of conversation about this. They did want to emphasize that if trustees want to come, they're welcome to attend any month. And they said it would be nice to see each trustee attend at least one DSC meeting. And does it really make a difference if you schedule this rotation? And then what would be the second trustee's role in the rotation? So the request was tabled to the November meeting. And, you know, certainly if the board has any more direction on that, that's fine. We can just leave it if they're not really comfortable with it and try and get a trustee to each board meeting or each DSC meeting.
And I think we already have our designated trustee that would always for sure be there. It's just a question of that alternating one. And as always, any trustee is welcome to always attend. So any further comments for Mike? So you said that they'll be discussing it at their.
Okay. Yeah, it was tabled till November.
Okay, sounds good. So no other comments, we're good. Okay, so moving on, our next item is the Fish and Game Association support letter. So I brought this forward for the whole board. It was a request for a letter of support of the usage of the building, and we have used it as a board. We have used that building, and the space is fairly adequate for our needs with the tables and chairs and just the size of that building. And then the accessibility has been fairly accessible for our members of the public that have come, whether that's students, parents, or community members. And then the parking, I had just highlighted that the parking is great. So I have attached that letter there for everybody to see, and I will be forwarding that on to them, or I'll have Kristen actually forward that on to them this week. So. Moving on then to 10.6, Technology in Schools Ad Hoc Committee, and Jenny.
Sorry, let me get to the right page so I can read it. When I went back and read my package, I realized this title is it should be worded differently, so I apologize. It sounds like I'm referring to the board's use of technology instead of technology in schools. So my apology. Technologies in Schools Ad Hoc Committee Board Initiative is what that should say. So just as background and a reminder for everybody, a motion was passed back in May of this year, on May 23rd, and the motion that was passed was stated as such. It says that the board form an ad hoc committee for the purpose of exploring the use of technology in schools and recommending strategies to the board, which may include the development of belief statements and guiding principles. And then as further work was done, sorry, that was initially passed in April 25th. Sorry, I misspoke. So the next month in the May meeting, the strategy that was discussed at that point was that myself and another trustee, and Andrea Trek was very kind to volunteer to work with me. We were going to develop terms of reference for the committee. So that is something that we worked on over the summer. And during that work, it was recognized that that is a task that we need more information before we're able to complete. And so that initial motion, the background for that initial motion and for this initiative is that a committee is being formed in response to communication that we've received from parents and staff, students, and stakeholders indicating the importance of supporting safe and healthy practices for technology in schools. And the purpose of this is to promote wellness with regards to technology use in schools. And so this is in an effort to develop strategy for providing division level support. It has been recognized that first steps require assessment prior to proper development of terms of reference. And something that we've talked about in trying to make that assessment would be effective is surveys. And so and to communicate clearly what the board's intent with this is to just gather information and to understand what is needed. We're hearing this desire to have something come forward, and in understanding what that is, it's our intent to understand what is needed and where support is needed and what is already happening, and where we're experiencing success and where there's room to focus as well. And so we have our community engagement committee, and one of the things that the community engagement committee does is survey work. And so they do the work of developing, distributing, and collecting data of surveys, and they often are, this is done through email and the community engagement website. And so the recommendation that I have on the table is recommending that the board request that the Community Engagement Committee develop survey questions specific to teachers, administrators, parents, and students. It is requested that the committee review the proposed surveys with the board to ensure that survey questions accurately reflect purpose. So to clarify, what we've talked about doing is kind of a series of surveys so that we can specifically gather information from our different people who are involved in this work of dealing with our students and learning and technology. So there's the recommendation.
Thank you. Questions or comments on the recommendation? Christina?
Yeah, just on behalf of the Community Engagement Committee, I just would say, yes, I think that it's clear that student students have asked us about it, parents have asked us about it, schools, administrators, teachers. I think we all know that we're in a moment of trying to figure out what path we're on with devices and technology. And I know that there's lots of work happening in the division, and certainly I think it's a good topic for the Community Engagement Committee, and I'd be in support of placing it there within the existing tools, which I really appreciate rather than new projects. So I agree.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Well, then your recommendation will go to the next community engagement meeting. Thank you. So next is a request for information enrollment 10.7. Jenny.
That's me again. And we've had extensive conversation around this and even more data provided already in this meeting. So thank you, Robbie, for providing that, and Mike for helping us to understand it. I know it's not a part of this request, and I've already kind of made the request, but if we could, if I could have an understanding of an enrollment as well as capacity at each of our schools would be something that I would be interested in seeing when that is able to be provided. Thank you.
Christina.
I just wanted to point out for the public, so that because I know that enrollment is always like a quick question of interest for the public as well. Just a reminder to folks that we do have the portal on the website, which I don't know where to link it is on the new layout yet, but I just Googled Lethbridge School Division portal. And then it's under the performance measures dashboard. If you click that one, there's all the data from 2018 to now. This year's isn't quite uploaded yet, but I assume at some point it gets uploaded after we hit a certain time threshold. Just around how many students are registered, including in different types of classifications, different, kindergarten, elementary, etc. Lots of data there, as well as 8 other giant slides of information about performance. So if folks are wondering how students are doing in the division overall, as well as just a plug for the financial dashboard as well. There's a live one for this year and then a previous ones on another dashboard. Microsoft, amazing.
Thank you for the reminder, Christina. Other comments? Craig.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing because throughout our 10 years governors, boundary reviews are always there, and we should know the populations of everything. And there could be some other discussions how format schools and that, which are based on based on data. And so to always have that data is a good thing for us as governors. So we can make an informed comment or informed talk about how to do that. And I know they do a good job. I'm not saying that we haven't done a good job in the past, but it's just nice to have that in one little package so that we don't have to search for it.
Christine.
Yeah, just a reminder on our in our capital 3-year capital plan has all the data on enrollment and capacities by school, and so just so you're aware that's there as well.
Okay. Thank you, Christina.
Out of curiosity, who puts all the information into this dashboard?
Avis, when she gets to it. So when you're in done and budget update, then she'll get to it.
Thank you.
Just it doesn't have the current stuff, so we can get that. Like Robbie can set what we did last year. Mike sent me his spreadsheet. And I just added the capacities, so we'll do that for the next board meeting. Then it's current. This stuff is
Current.
this is last year in projections, but I'm just saying that's where a whole bunch of data is.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next is 10.8, the Facilities Committee report. So I had requested that be pulled from consent agenda. So if anybody needs to flip back, I already flipped to where that was. So my question is in regards to vaping monitors. So I noticed that it says 51 vape detectors have been purchased and will be installed at the 4 schools that are piloting the devices. At our last meeting, you let us know that they were $2,000 each. So I'm just wondering, at 51, and that's a pilot, can you tell me how many more we're expecting to be purchasing, or can you tell me a bit more about how the piloting is working?
Yeah, so they're just getting ready to install them because we had to meet with technology and there's technology stuff you have to do. So yeah, 4 schools will have them installed in the washrooms only. Winston Churchill, Chinook, GS Lakey, and Vic Park. Some schools, like for instance, Winston Churchill has a lot of washrooms. A lot versus, Lakey only has a couple and Vic Park only has a couple. So they'll be installed and put in. And then we'll see how those go. And then if it's something we think is worthwhile, then we can roll it out in subsequent years. Because it's a fair amount of money. So you have to do so many at a time. Yeah.
Jenny?
Just to add to that, I had several questions around this at our facilities meeting, being new to that as well and new to this project. Some of my questions were around that as well too. So just to provide further information of what I learned, they are purchased, so they belong to the division. They're not a pilot program being like on loan, is right? We own them, the division. It's our own pilot program, not from the company piloting something in our division. This is us running our own pilot and we purchased them. And so the cost thus far has been $150,000.
So, and just to, so you said that the majority of Churchill and then only a few at the other schools?
Well, yeah, Chinook would have a fair number as well, but Churchill has the most just
Okay.
because of the layout of the bath washrooms.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were all schools given an opportunity to be a part of the pilot, or how did that?
No, we thought we'd pick 4 that it made sense, to start with. Like LCI will be a monster to do, for instance. So LCI wouldn't have been a good place to start.
So when you do the pilot, you need to do all of them, is what you're saying, or like all of the washrooms in one
Yeah, if
school?
you're gonna do, you can do it right because you want to test how the system works with all the various pieces, and so you want to make sure you're covering the whole school. Because otherwise, it doesn't work because the kids will figure out where they aren't and.
Yeah, and the intention will be to do them in all our high schools and middle schools, or what will the intention be?
Yeah, if it works as we think it should and we find it's useful, because it has a lot of other features than just vape. It also detects, you can put parameters in there for numbers. So at certain times of the day, you could say, if there's more than 4 or 5 kids in there, it'll send an alert for administrator just to go check. It will also do, you can do some kind of command recognitions on a couple of phrases like help or 911. And so if it hears that, it doesn't record any conversation, or anything, but if it'll pick up that or something that sounds like that, then it will result in somebody coming to check out. So that's another it's an enhanced feature that we ordered just to see how that would work as well.
And is there an anticipated overall cost budget-wise of what this will be going forward?
Well, if we add them up, their school it's probably another 150,000 on top, I would think. If we do the other schools, we're not doing the elementary schools.
But that's only 4 schools, and you said the LCI is quite a large school.
It could be, yeah. And I'm sorry, Allison, I don't know exactly how much it would cost to do LCI, but
Okay,
I'm just projecting or extrapolating.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just quite a large cost, I think, for
Yeah.
for our division to have these vaping
Mhm.
detectors. So, okay. Craig?
Well, I think anything we can do to make sure that our students are safe and protected is worthwhile. If this works, we would not only do LCI, we would do Manual Christian and junior and Lethbridge Christian for the junior high.
That would be up to them because they own their facility.
Okay.
So we
But
would have a conversation.
We'd have a
'Cause-
conversation with
yeah,
them.
because, yeah, it's their facility.
But I do believe that with the capabilities that you've described to us, the money is well spent, because if we can protect kids from any kind of serious incident and make sure that all students are safe and protected, money sometimes is not the issue.
Sometimes money is the issue when I look at support staff and needing the supports in our classroom for our students to be getting an education. That's a priority as well. Definitely student safety is up there, but so is getting an education for all of our students. Tyler.
I was just going to say, in regard to these detectors too, administration's actually pretty excited about it too, because it's at this point, the way that this is operating, it's taking a lot of their time to be able to go in and check in bathrooms and do that. So there's a theory, which is again why we're piloting it, to see how does this help administration and their time in order to be able to so they're not having to go check the bathroom all the time or know that this is happening. They can already tell if this thing can detect 20 bodies in a space, then they already know, and they're not having to circle the school all the time and do all the things. So there's hope that there'll be some time savings and effort savings in that too for the admin.
Jenny.
I know when we brought in our recycling program, that was something that, because of the large expense and it being a new program, came to the board for approval. So in understanding process, things that are new and that have a high ticket cost attached to them, what is our process when this was obviously born out of a committee who does a lot of work, had the information, made an informed decision? It's not something that came before the board for approval or for input. It was just something the board was informed on. And so what I'm looking to understand is process in these things. Where does it lie? Where does the board's responsibility lie in something like this coming forward as something new? And what is our role is really what I'm looking to understand.
So I want to just clear up a misconception. This is not coming from instructional dollars. This is coming from IMR, infrastructure maintenance renewal funding that we're using. And so that's where we're getting the recycling was coming from capital reserves. And so that's why we brought it to the board.
Greg.
And I think that's important what Christine Lee has just said. It's IMR funding. It doesn't take any money away from EAs or more teachers, but it does use that money to protect children. And that's a major concern of mine, is that if we have that in place, certain things might not have happened that have happened in the past. And so I think that's any money spent on those things are very worthwhile to protect all of our students.
Thanks. So next on our agenda is 10.9 PSBA report. Wait till you're back at the mic to talk so that people can hear you, please.
Okay, I had the opportunity to go to the Public School Board's general meeting on Thursday. We got a chance to listen to the Minister of Education, who our board chairman of the Public School Board had practiced his name but mispronounced it. And then we heard Dave Hancock speak, a former education minister, and he gave a really good talk about kids and meeting the needs of all kids. Afterwards, we were able to, and I was able to spend 5 minutes with the minister. by myself talking to them. One of the things that's interesting is that I had a Greek student in my classroom, and every weekend they had to go up to Calgary to Greek school, and he did the same thing. I will mention the two things I talked to him about. One is I said that the current way of doing the budget and the previous way of doing the budget always hurts or helps school divisions. And the current way is helping those small divisions, but hurting the larger ones. And mentioned that maybe a hybrid system should be used. The other issue, and I brought this up at the board, is that it might be cheaper for the government if they allowed school boards to take out a loan to build a school. And then part of your budgeting is the principal and interest portion of it over a certain period of time. So I had a good talk with him, and but the one on the budget, I really wanted to make sure that he understood, because we've talked about it. We've talked about the fact that we have an extra, what is it? I can't remember if we talked about it, but there's a bunch of kids that are only going to get $1,000 funding. And so it's just not fair and he was easy to talk to, very easy and personable. I think there's some good things if we can, if he can catch the ear of a number of trustees. He was willing to listen and talk. Friday was one of the best PDs that I have ever done. And unfortunately, I was by myself. The one that I gave you is this is what we did all day Friday. He's recognized all across North America for effective practices of successful school boards. And went through a lot. And if you just go through it, I just want to pull out one little thing that I really, now some of my notes are there and then some I put somewhere else. But duty of care, what our job is, political, corporate, and weird. And this is one that I really wanted to, if you turn to transparency and trust in government, representative for versus representative of. He talked a lot about that. And if the board members believe they are representative for, they see themselves as elected representatives of a particular constituency. They voice only the self-interest and opinions of that constituency and vote only on behalf of that constituency's interests. And then if you look at what a representative of, they voice interests and opinions of those they know best and vote on behalf of the best overall interest of an organization. But he also went through how to do a board evaluation. And interesting enough, he made a comment about evaluating a superintendent. And I have to say that I have to change my mind a little bit. He said a summative evaluation does nothing. All it does is talk about the past and how you hated it or how you liked it. He said most boards need to go to a formative evaluation on an ongoing basis so that you can sit down with your administration and say, what are our goals? How are we doing? Are you following? Are you keeping up or whatever? So it was quite a good conversation. I just wish more people had been there for our board. And this other part is that we can look at it. We can do our board self-evaluation. We can do the vision real, all of those things. Also, I encourage everyone to go over this document. And if we feel like it's something that we could use to maybe start talking about it during the year, especially, which I think is important, is a board self-evaluation. And he was really good. I mean, he hit on some really key points. He asked us to describe the vehicle that we would have as a board. Well, I didn't say. One board said they'd like to be a bus and then all those different things. One was a four-wheel drive lifted up with a winch to get out of problems and stuff like that. And anyway, the two people I got to talk with was Jason Schelling, who's not a board member, and the president of ASCA, who's also not a board member. But anyway, very good. on Saturday, we had elections. I did get nominated to be a director on the thing, but lost out. But I got support from across the province, which was grateful. We don't know what the vote was. That's part of the policy, is that we just announced the two winners. One was for a 2-year term and one was for a 1-year term. But I know that I got support from Parkland and some other places west of Edmonton, plus Wetaskiwin and Golden Hills. And again, and I would, if you haven't got that email on the modules for governance, just send me an email and then I'll send it to you, because there's a special password. And then just a reminder that they also have Coursera, because you can do a study on Indigenous education, which is free. And that modules are free too. And I think that's a valuable point of what we can get from public school boards.
I just need to have you pause for a moment there.
Yeah.
If I'd like to make a motion to move past 6 o'clock for the meeting.
I move, so move.
I just moved.
Oh, yeah, you just moved, okay.
Further comment or question? Those in favor? And that's carried.
I'll basically wrap it up. But one of the things that I find so engaging with public school boards is that I have had the opportunity to have good conversations with Red Deer Public, which is similar to our division, Wetaskiwin, Grand Yellowhead, Aspen View. And those conversations are like the hallway conversations. Like I've always said that the best PD a teacher can do is just talk to another teacher. And I learned more talking to another teacher than structured PD. And so that's the key to this, is that we get to visit with a lot of different people during our meetings. We get to talk with a lot, and I appreciate that. So that is all I wanted to present, is that I've photocopied that for your perusal. Unfortunately, it came out in a little booklet, but that might be easier to read than the other system. No, I
think it's
apologize.
great, actually, as
Yeah.
the booklet, and just want to say thank you. I think that booklet is great, and be great if people can review it. I do know, heard from a few people that were at PSBA, and they said everybody's here working as boards, and poor Craig's there by himself. So definitely take a look at this, and if this is something that we can use to work together with.
Edmonton did invite me a couple of times to talk,
So come out of it
but
there.
you know, I can't talk about their division, and
Yeah.
but again,
let's just move it on, because we
yeah, no,
are
I
after
mean,
6, so
that's all I have to say.
Yep.
And I just hope that you read it seriously and that we look at doing some of we go on this year. So
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. And any questions, comments? None. So there is correspondence received as well as correspondence sent in your packages. And then we need to move back into camera. So looking for a motion to move into camera. Christine, and those in favor? And that's carried.